Welcome back to the home studio and welcome to episode 103 of the Stevie Richards Show. Apparently, what are we still doing? My co-host James Romero, I will not interrupt you.
We're still taking over. So this is part 2 of WWF's Manhattan Center ECW Invasion from February 24th, 1997.
Yeah, 4 simple words for you. I almost said 3, but it would have been a Charles Barkley TNT NBA moment. Which, by the way, I am not even a basketball fan, but I always watched when they were on TNT. I would always watch the halftime show and especially the clips. And I can't wait till we do a San Antonio-based one where I could say, like Charles Barkley said, "Hey man, they got some big old women down there in the churros." Those clips.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You got to watch them. You don't even have to be a basketball fan to know the dynamic and the chemistry between like Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, Ernie Johnson, and Kenny are really, really
Didn't they
fun.
just cancel that show?
They moved it to ESPN, so they might as well have canceled it because it sucks now.
Oh, does it?
Terrible.
Oh, like who's on it if they changed all the players?
No, they didn't change. They just changed the fact that it feels so forced and it can't be. It feels so homogenized and corporate. Big shock. WWE, TKO, ESPN. But when they were on TNT, they would just do, it was like a podcast. They were just doing whatever, hardly ever talked about the basketball sometimes. And it was just a fun show.
You're saying
Thank
that
you,
Disney
ESPN,
ruined
for
stuff.
ruining it.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're saying like Disney-owned entities ruin things.
There's a rumor going around that they might have something to do with that, with basically not having good shows.
We like to think we do have good shows. And we've got several shows beyond this as well. I've got my YouTube channel, my solo YouTube channel, James Romero. Stevie is teaming up with Chase Brogan for apparently more stuff every single week, you were saying, in the Patreon, as well as like crikey. So you're doing one thing with him, all of a sudden you've got like a burgeoning tech and gaming empire coming at some point, maybe.
Well, I don't know about Empire, but I do know that we're having a lot of fun. And this is something our audience has talked about for quite a long time, which, by the way, no pressure, but I'll put it out there in the universe that you're always invited. Chase and I are considering going to spin off a dedicated channel to gaming news, gaming products, reviews, streams. The game mod video we did on his current channel with the No Mercy mod was really popular. So we're looking at maybe just, you're the SEO guy and so is Chase. So, if you mix it up too much, kind of, it doesn't really factor into the algorithm. But yes, definitely doing more stuff on the tech end as well. And of course, Stevie Richards Fitness, we actually have two smart trainers on the way. That's why we started recording at 4:30 a.m. Today. It works out great, doesn't it? Across the pond and everything. I'm an early riser. And my wife does sometimes like, it's 2 a.m. I was like, oh, I'm up, so I might as well get started.
But yes, this was an early one for me as well. I mean, yeah, for me, though, I was up at 6:50 for this, which is still not that early. I mean, it'd be early for most people to start work, but not you.
No, and with Chase, it's great because we communicate with the international brands and stuff. Chase goes to bed super late, and I was actually texting him when I was finished my workout saying, hey, when you're Christian York, another wrestler, was wondering how to do some emulation and stuff like that. So he asked me to ask Chase, and Chase got right back to me, and I found out, oh, we kind of like do cross, like us, we kind of do cross schedules in a weird way. It works out.
Stevie's also got his cameo, of course, 5 stars across the board. I'll say every single week he charges way too little and he gives way too much for your money. And you should get one while I've failed to convince him to change anything about it. So I'll convince him soon enough.
Hey, if the gas prices keep going up and I don't get that Tesla Model Y, I might have to raise the price. Hey, by the way, a recent cameo, speaking of gaming, this guy Brett sent me, he's a solo developer. He sent me a cameo video request about a game he's been working on. Very, very interesting stuff. It's stuff that I can really, really go deep into as long as, hopefully it'll develop well. It has like a booker mode and you got to deal with all these different things that the wrestlers do. Then the wrestling part is like a life on the road type thing along with, so it's more like an RPG type thing. He's looking at a producer mode where you have to produce the match from a production standpoint, but you also have to please the advertisers. I hope it becomes more of a reality because it seems like it's definitely up my alley with a very nuanced, detailed approach to the professional wrestling lifestyle and what it's like behind the scenes. So hopefully it becomes something.
Absolutely. And also the Patreon as well, the Stevie Richards Show Patreon, where we have finally given in and watched Tony Gurria once again. But that's coming up this Monday. What did we watch this Monday just gone, Stevie?
Yeah. This past Monday, we actually had a bonus watch along before that with the Matt Morgan, Doug Williams versus Raven and myself in TNA. And I totally forget. No, it was actually myself and Nunio. I'm sorry. It has to do with this episode. So myself and Nunio from the very show that apparently we are still taking over.
Yes, it's a over a week process so far, but you'll take over it eventually, I'm sure.
One of my greatest accomplishments, by the way, and I'm sorry to interrupt. Take a drink once again, future episode. One of my favorite things is I have everybody, including my wife and you, calling him Nunio. It's amazing.
He'd be someone good to get for like September filming. Do you think or not?
We haven't talked about that. We talked about it a little bit on Patreon, but yes, we are planning to finally meet in person sometime in late fall, hopefully when Florida cools down. And we're going to make it hopefully into like a summit of sorts. You know, Chase will hopefully, maybe Perry. Maven said he's in. He'll bring Zach down. And yeah, if Nunio is down here in Florida, that would be incredible. He's going to hurt me on camera. Is that what you're hoping for?
I'm hoping for revenge.
As he's hurting me, and I'm saying you're hurting me, he's going to say he's not hurting me. As my elbow goes the opposite way, this way.
I'm going to be saying, zoom in. This is cinema.
Oh, see, this is where we're going to shoot in log, color graded, so you get the full effect. Maybe it's cinema camera, and as he tells me, if I'm in the ring with him, and I'm saying, dude, please stop hurting me. And he goes, I'm not hurting you. Stop being a baby. Stop being a baby. My elbow's literally the other side. Yeah, it was like that. It was like that when you got in the ring.
We've got to get straight into this because like some of these show notes we've got are some of these matches are terrible. It's not the ECW people, I'll tell you that. Like all those ECW matches are very, very short. Every other match on this, like all the WWF matches, are kind of different shades of bad. I mean, is that kind of fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like I asked you the venue, the time of the company, maybe the financials, that Germany show that basically was, mostly just had to be thrown in the trash or whatever, outside of what was the Bulldog and Owen match that you talked about. But it feels like WWF at this time is in a weird transition period, like a fight or flight mode, success or failure. They're really at a kind of a crossroads because this is the precursor to the Attitude Era. But it feels very much like we're still in the times of the race car driver, the garbage man. It was a very weird time.
Yeah, you have like Sonny in one segment with the honky tonk man in the exact same segment. And then, or you have like the Sultan wasn't on, but like the Sultan and Salvatore Balome, not Salvatore Balome. Who's the guy? Salvatore Sensei.
Sal Sincere, Tom Brandy.
And then you've got Brian Pillman. They don't know what they want to be at this point, so it kind of ends up this like weird hodgepodge. Then they've got ECW over, and for the most part, they're not doing anything very ECW-esque. Kind of like really straight matches for the most part, apart from the last one.
Yeah, I think when I looked at the show again, when I'm looking at it, it seems like it's ECW guys. Like I said, you can feel the nervous energy, especially with Paul or anybody else across the board. Just wanted to do their best. Live TV or live pal. It's kind of, that pressure was not unfelt by us, but I feel like in a way people kind of looked at it and like these guys are really, really trying, where it felt like in the other matches, like, were they worn down? Were they on the road too much? I know that people were overseas as this was going on. And maybe at this point that like, we're at that crossroads. Like I said, I do kind of still speculate in my mind and kind of say, what if everybody listened? What if Vince listened to the S-Men? Fast forward months later, Montreal Screwjob. If Vince listened to the S-Men and swept all that stuff under the rug and didn't become Mr. McMahon, would we still be having shows like this?
Well, like opening with scuffling hillbillies and
Well,
blackjacks and stuff.
what I'm saying is, you said we have an identity crisis for the product and for the show. And it seemed like they were really scared to go in that direction. Or you had the Pillmans and other little things going on. And after the Brett stuff, and finally being convinced to kind of not sweep the Brett punching Vince in the eye, all that stuff under the rug, would we have just had an identity crisis at best? Or would we have gone back to everybody has part-time jobs outside wrestling with different characters?
That's a good question because, I mean, he might have, picked up the phone and said, "Hey, is Bobo Brazil still working?" That kind of thing. I think he was scared to a point until late '97, and then he was just kind of convinced this is the way to go. But then, that very famous Vince McMahon, he's in the back, and he's basically saying, "You're sick of the concept of good guys and bad guys," that kind of thing. And that's before Montreal, I think, if I'm right in saying, or it's around that time, where it just seems over like a 2-month period, it went from the Mr. McMahon character. But the thing is, the Mr. McMahon character didn't really exist until into '98, because there was maybe like one interaction with Steve Austin, and then he's not really the bad guy for a good few more weeks. And then when it comes to the Mike Tyson thing and the Austin-Mike Tyson face-off, and then we start getting the Mr. McMahon character. But really, the Mr. McMahon character is only a really more definable thing after Steve Austin wins the title, after WrestleMania. So it does take like over a year to fully flesh out the vision. And then you've got, your Val Venuses and your Godfathers and Goldust changing characters for the 18th time, trying to find his footing. People like that as well. I mean, the Attitude Era really only fully found its footing in the spring of '98. I think that would be fair to say. Whereas in early '97, they just don't know what they want. I'll say this, like with Tommy Dreamer and Devon, which was not the semi-main event of the show, I guess. And like Tommy gets a cane from someone in the crowd and hits Devon, and you can hear how like he's nervous, Vince, about this. Like, whoa, I wasn't quite expecting this, and he seems really unsure of it. And then 1 year later, you see what he got.
Is that all you're going to do? Is hit him with a cane? Is that all you're going to do? You P word. It's like, but here's the thing: what you just talked about. Isn't that what's missing, is taking the journey, the slow burn, let it organically turn into that? Because Vince very much, if you think about it, if you looked at it, like it'd be very fascinating to look at it from the Vince McMahon, Mr. McMahon point of view with Steve Austin, because he was trying to do things the nice way. He was trying to, in a way, when Steve got hurt, to protect Steve. Remember that? He was doing certain things, and Steve almost came off a little bit of that gray area there. You could look at it from Vince's eyes as the promoter trying to protect the brand, trying to stay kid-friendly, trying not to have the middle finger, the beer drinking, all that stuff, which turned into, finally, Vince embracing the full-on Mr. McMahon evil character. That, like you said, well, it took a year and a half. But as that's happening, we're getting the double turn with Brett and Austin. We're getting DX. We're getting all these other characters that are coming up. You're getting the next generation. Dude, it really like the slow burn. But once they got it, The Rock, Ken Shamrock, all these different people just ushered in that Attitude Era. And like, even here, you're talking about the first match and you got the new Blackjacks. But look at what happened with Bradshaw, too, when everything got into gear and then build up with the APA, then into Ruthless Aggression. I mean, what I'm saying is all this stuff really laid a foundation. And we're truly at the crossroads, I believe, with this show and moving forward with the WWF brand.
Even with Steve Austin, for example, right, the whole double turn thing with Austin is kind of a myth in the sense that people were going nuts for Steve weeks beforehand and booing Brett weeks beforehand. But then this was Chicago, and then it's just cementing what people already knew, kind of thing, rather than a double turn. But then Steve Austin was put in a match with The Undertaker like 2 months later, and it's really 50-50. In fact, it's more for the Undertaker. If I remember rightly, it's more audience, cheering for the Undertaker than Steve Austin, who Austin was still in that whole, still slightly sneaky, slimy heel mode at that point. Then at SummerSlam, he's already, on his way to being the face of the company. Then, getting his neck injured ended up being weirdly the best thing for him, because it forced the WWF to come up with alternative ways of developing his character. And like the same with CM Punk a couple of years ago, same with quite a few people. If you cannot have them wrestle, but you're determined to keep them on TV, oftentimes it works in the wrestler's favor.
Well, you get a more deeper understanding of what their motivation is, and you get an emotional investment in them. But I'm just saying, like, yeah, but what you're saying about Steve and about Brett, sure, the
But that's
people are
about the
doing,
journey still, as you were saying. It's still
yes,
about the journey.
yes, it's about the journey. And then they went with it and they did that. And you introduced Ken Shamrock in a way that he shines during that match as special referee. But right now, okay, let's look at it comparing before we get into this. What if Vince was the way he was, shoving Roman Reigns down everybody's throat for years and years and years and years? Then when the dude turned heel and had a proper run as champion, he got over. But he technically, the people were pushing back all those years. What if Vince was stubborn with the Brett and Austin stuff and kept them, no matter how they reacted, it would have fizzled. Think about that. So Vince had a great attitude about letting it go then, but then as time went on, it felt like he could not just go with the flow. Am I thinking about that correctly?
I think historically speaking, Vince is only more likely to go with the flow once there's some serious competition. And
Where
then
the
he kind
company
of
is about to
realizes,
close and they're taking
yeah,
the water coolers.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So he's kind of, his back is against the wall and he gives up, power to other people.
But isn't that the
But
best version of Vince McMahon we've ever seen? Like when
yes,
that happens with Turner, with all this, even way back during Black Friday, and when Vince feels like he's pressured to do something, that's usually the best version of the product we see.
yeah, but we see that today. It's like with the Monday Raw that was yesterday as we record this. It's just the same as every other Raw. It's like, yeah, Obafemi went out there. I don't even know why they're just giving Obafemi microphone time. Who wants to hear him speak? You want to see him go out? He should be Goldberg, just go out there, destroy people. And now they're giving him promo time on his own every week to develop his character. Like, you know what? Some people just don't need a character. Some people just need to be murderers. And he should be that dude. It's like, that just annoyed me straight off the bat.
I'm actually agreeing with you because look at what it did for Brock. So many years of not even really ever saying a word.
Mm-hmm.
Even if Sid, rest in peace, big time Hall of Fame thing, can't forget about that. They really gave him super amounts of time. But Sid cut a great promo. But think about if Sid never talked. I don't know if he'd be any less over, right? You just want to see him kick someone's butt.
We're going to review the show then. So, Godwins versus Blackjacks, new Blackjacks. That's Bradshaw and Barry Windham. I mean, once again, you talk about your Sammy Sitches and your Brian Pillmans and your Steve Austins and your Bret Harts, and then you've also got, once again, the Scuffling Hillbillies from the 50s, again, wrestling cowboys. And it wasn't a good match, and then the finish was just like, Phineas's leg was on the rope, and then the referee didn't see it, and then the referee got slopped for it, and then that was it, and then it just moved on. Is there anything to say about it?
It had everything. Like I said, everybody, it seems like they're kind of in flux. The company, the wrestlers, you see what Bradshaw ended up becoming with the APA and then with JBL. So great deal of potential. The Goblins even had some site. I mean, everybody here, first of all, everybody here is just an immense man. They're just monsters. Even Barry Windham, which is another mystery. I know that's more of a thing of dipping in and out and doing his own thing and being a unique personality. But man, Barry Windham never reached his potential either. That's what I'm saying. Everybody seemed to be, what's next for me? We're kind of awaiting further instructions. And this match kind of shows, are we kind of in the 80s, early 90s with part-time characters and they have outside things they do? Or are we going to lean into the current like modern culture of what the world is.
Next up, the Eliminators grab some dude who might as well be like the Towel Boy, I guess, and gives him total elimination. I think the only thing to mention here is that the guy was terrified and he had his arms over his head for like seconds prior to the move being hit on him. But that's pretty much it. Then Paul Heyman
Can you
comes out
blame him though?
No.
You see those two dudes coming at you, and I bet you the guy had a bruise on his shoulder from when Perry just snatched him.
So we were going to do a total elimination, what went right kind of thing, or analysis of the move, but we don't have time. So that's going to come up for a future episode, Take a Drink. And now we get into the first ECW match. And it is Big Stevie Cool versus Little Guido, which I hadn't even worked out until just now. It's Big versus Little in the name.
I didn't even know that either. See, I'm new to this whole thing too. But I'm telling you what, don't be fooled by the size difference, because I was running for my life out there, even as I was going over.
So go on, give us the entire match, including... I asked this probably last week, but you don't remember who the agent was, whether it's WWF or just Heyman telling you what to do?
I do not remember, but I would tend to guess that we did have, you're going this many minutes, this is what we need, don't do this. We did get guidance from somebody. They probably weren't expressly super interested in being involved in aging in our match. We did get we're going to go into what it was like backstage and meeting Vince in bed, but it just seemed like you had pockets of people that were fine with it, pockets of people that were nice, then the expected pockets of people that were like, you do not belong here. So there's a mix of everything here. Like I used the word fluid. It was very much a fluid depending upon where you were standing backstage, who you were talking to, or who wasn't talking to you more accurately and specifically. But we did go out there knowing how much time we had. We did go out there. The referee was giving us time cues on this. You can see during the watch along, I kick out of Guido. He ducks duck a clothesline. He hits me with like kind of face bump, kind of turning around face bump as we're both running. And we kick out and go right into the comeback from there, reverse and then hit the rocker dropper, which I had no idea about anything, but they let me know afterwards for sure. So that was a precursor to my actual career in WWE of getting yelled at after the match. So I was off to a good start.
You didn't mention this. So the rocker dropper, you were told not to do it, even though Jannetty had left.
No. I didn't know there was something not to do based off the Chuck Austin stuff. And they were it was kind of banned. I mean, in a way, I didn't know about that. I wasn't in a talent meeting about any of that stuff. I don't know if it was even an official public, like none of you do the rocker dropper. I was just doing it sometimes in ECW. So I decided to. I remember Jannetty was not there, so that's why I did it. I wouldn't have done it if he was there.
I'm surprised that you ended up... I mean, I don't know what else you could have done, really, unless it was like a pin from the powerbomb, but I'm surprised that you did the Stevie kick with... Because Sean had just lost his smile, like a week or two prior, of course. But was there any hesitance for you doing a super kick as a finish then in the WWF?
I do remember asking. I do remember, like, I felt the trap of, this is my finish in ECW, and obviously there was a lot of people in the crowd with and without BWO shirts, but they were an ECW crowd. I think Paul just said, just do it. And Paul was like, stop. I was like, okay, I'm just going to duck clothesline, hit the super kick. Where he goes, no. Go to the corner, call for it, stomp. And I can just literally see my future, if I ever go to WWF at the time or when it becomes WWE, what this is going to be like. Because not too long after this show, I'm sitting across from Bruce Prichard and I'm sitting across from Vince McMahon, and here we are. So like I thought, I'm completely buried. I'm an ECW lifer after this.
We're going to be talking about that as well in a little bit, the Bruce Prichard and Vince McMahon meeting. And next, any injuries you may have picked up in this match?
Oh yeah. The injuries on this is why I was like after the point, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna put people over someday and not worry about doing moves because those seem to hurt me. Side slam during the match with Nunio, I bruised my tailbone. I found out, oh, and we didn't call it back then. I was like, oh, this ring is really, really stiff. I didn't know it was going to ever be labeled the WrestleMania 3 ring, but this felt like the WrestleMania 3 ring. And yes, when I hit the side slam, Raven comes out. Raven comes out through the eye. He doesn't fall off the R like Sabu. He just comes around the R and walks down the thing. And we're going to have a face off. But you can see me. It looks like I'm kind of like slowly just building the intensity and anticipation if there's going to be something to happen. But really, my legs were numb from the side slam. I was crawling to the corner. And then my legs came back after taking the first drop kick from Nunio.
I find it so. I think I mentioned it on the watch along, but it just seems like such an anachronism to see Raven rather than Johnny Polo in front of the RAW old school Raw signage. It just seems so odd and so out of place. He was ECW champion as well at the time, wasn't he?
Yeah, this was leading into Barely Legal, three-way down, but it was all developing. This, once again, a slow burn, but, they didn't even know if I was going to be a part of the match. I announced it in a promo with Joey Styles in Scranton, PA, with a segment where Raven came out. But yeah, we were building towards that, but it wasn't set in stone yet. It wasn't even set in stone what was going to happen. We still didn't know what could happen, because this was like everything was, stopping this. I think it was supposed to be like the year before, maybe, but we ended up with Barely Legal on April 13th. But yeah, there was a lot of moving parts, a lot of excitement with that. And I was just happy to be part of that clothing line, the NWO.
Oh, yeah, speaking of which, whose idea was it to throw the BWO t-shirts to the crowd? Because quite a few of them continued wearing them throughout the show.
I'm sure it was an understanding amongst us and Paul, and I think we went to Dreamer, who I think he had the merch at his parents' house. So we had extra shirts to throw out. The people that were wearing them already were wearing them, when we came out, and we came out through the crowd. And Meanie's got the footage. So I'm telling you, Feinstein was 7-Eleven. Feinstein, and then I think Meanie has it. There's backstage stuff of us going through the hallway, then the monitors back there, and the security leading us out to the thing. So it's a very dark atmosphere, but there is some footage out there of us just joking around before we go out. But joking around and looking at my face, I'm terrified. I'm sure we all were.
How nervous were you? Because you said this was your first live television match, and as I say, Raw wasn't live every week. I think around this time or just shortly thereafter, it would be live every other week.
Yeah, I think
I'm right.
two shows per live and then taped, and then sometimes shotgun Saturday night. I guess they would go to the other place sometimes and film that. And later on, that was the one after all the Raw tapings, like 10 or 11 p.m. So no, this was definitely something like I knew it was going to be a live one, not a pre-tape one. And you can see with me, everybody, maybe it just comes across as trying hard or having effort, but everybody was so nervous because the pacing of it felt very rushed. Did you get that feeling? Like it wasn't bad, but you can tell as a worker, man, we're rushing through this. We're rushing through the promo. I can hear my voice, even as high pitched as it was naturally back then. It was cracking for that with the promo on Lawler and everything. And even when Perry and John grabbed the dude and tried to do it, you can feel like it's very herky jerky in a way, and not very smooth.
I can see with the interview where you're saying we're taking over, and all I can see is Meanie just trying to grab the microphone off you to do his thing afterwards.
Yeah, even I was grabbing the mic. And even trying to get face off with Lawler, which if I had to do it over again, we talked about it last week, I would not have done that to that point because you give Lawler, you don't have a microphone. So you literally don't have any comeback, and he can say, and he did. He said whatever he wanted about Meanie, and then during the match, and calling me Bean Paul afterwards. All accurate, but
Well,
I'm a
little Guido
beanpole again,
versus
according to Flair. Thing. Nah,
was that something
it's
else?
not there.
Was that Pinky Nag?
Oh,
Thing is, his pinky's a lot larger. That's the thing.
well, I got there. I can.
That's kind of it. I mean, ultimately, were you satisfied? Because it's like a 3-minute match. All the ECW guys got like a 3-minute match. Were you happy enough with how it went? Or are you just somebody who just, well, I know who you are. I mean, like, we just like, oh, God, could have done that so much better.
You know, surprisingly, I was satisfied with how I felt, what it was, the pressure. I mean, in one take. I don't think there was anything outside of after I kicked out. We were told go home now, and we listened. So I was pretty proud of myself. I know this is going to sound here when I'm proud of myself. People are like, oh my God, he's arrogant now. But no, I was proud of myself because I understood the pressure and I started to gain the confidence that when I'm in high pressure situations, which I had been, let's even though it's taped or whatever, it's a high pressure situation in front of that ECW crowd, which is pretty unforgiving if you mess up. And if you mess up as a nobody, it works to your advantage. But if you mess up as somebody they view on the way to the world title picture and you start blowing spots or doing things and botching, which wasn't even a term back then you're pretty much you're veered off to this side now because you failed at something. It was very much a test. So this was the ultimate test up to this point in my career, in all of our careers, to do a live TV like this, not as locals, not as enhancement on Wrestling Challenge, but everybody on the show, ECW wise, was literally this is your segment, this is your spot, this is your infomercial. I feel like myself, and let's say what it is. It was all Nunio. Because without him putting me over all over the loop in ECW, which he did, and Revere and certain places, people like Axel Rotten, Ricky Morton, other people, all these people had played a part even more so than myself in that point to give me the confidence to even pass the test of being on live TV. And Guido is as real as they get. So for him to do that spot or do, his part in this with a smile on his face and not have an ego about it, all the credit goes to him. I was just kind of there.
I was going to ask, actually, were you surprised that you were picked to be one of the singles matches featured? Well, maybe not, because you're eventually going to be
No, I was surprised.
Semi-main event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not as surprised as Taz and Perry.
Okay.
Well, you got to think too, this is an incredible opportunity. And even though he never said it to my face and was always very team atmosphere when it came to performing, I could tell Taz and Perry and people like them were not happy because I was very young. I was very immature. And they would, based on actions and leaving, coming back, and then going away again, and then, not being in the business after that, at the time, they were kind of proven right that I was given the spot, and maybe while I wasn't ready for it because of all the things that happened later on in the year.
You were not on other Invasion episodes of ECW, so there was one like, I don't know if it was, well, you weren't on the ones beforehand, you weren't on the debate episode a couple of weeks afterwards, and you didn't have any further singles matches because they were kind of reserved more for Rob Van Dam, Sabu, because that was that whole Jerry Lawler connection. Also, it was like Chris Candido as well had a match. So were you expecting any more WWF appearances? Did you request any, or was it, and also, was it only Paul Heyman who was choosing who they wanted on WWF TV?
Oh, that I don't know. What I assume now, with the fact that they were working together and Vince was subsidizing ECW, is it not out of the realm to theorize that Vince was kind of requesting to take a look at these talents when they were on his television? Paul wanted to give exposure. Paul's in a spot, right? He's working with Vince. There are talent exchanges that are going to go on, and then Vince is going to sign certain wrestlers, but Paul wants to keep the wrestlers in the dark and say Vince is the enemy. Look at all these different factors. I'd have to think that Paul would say, I want these people. And then Vince would either say yes or no. And then maybe Vince would want people and Paul would have a certain amount of vetoes to say, no, 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 he's not ready or whatever. Maybe I was one of those guys that Paul put on the show and then Vince didn't want to see again. Or maybe Vince wanted to see me on the Raw. You see how I can go crazy trying to think about it. And then Paul didn't want me on the rest. My dynamic, say Raven, myself, and even the BWO, but mostly Raven and myself, we always kind of stood on an island of our own characters that were not really like ECW bred and ECW loyal. Did you feel that way? Our characters, especially, we were almost in our own little universe of storylines and stuff. Like we were fighting people like Dreamer that were ECW loyal and for life, but it felt like we didn't really fit into the group atmosphere for the debate or defending the honor of ECW.
Yeah, I guess so. In a character development way, then you wouldn't be the right guy to, because you were doing an NWO parody invasion thing at the time, and then Raven, as you say, was out on an island and kind of a nihilist in that sense, so he wouldn't have made sense either.
And then Vince might have hated Raven back then. We don't know how Vince felt about Raven in general back then. I know how he felt when Raven was doing the 7 deadly sins on Heat and trying to get himself over with that. But did Vince harbor any kind of resentment for Raven and he didn't want Raven to be a part of anything? But Paul obviously had to have the world champion. This is all speculation, but one thing's for sure. I was never asked to do anything in your house in Philly. I didn't even know it was happening. We were mostly all kayfabe, just like Bradshaw and most of the office were. And then after that, of course, I was probably hoping to do more stuff and get more exposure. But I was also happy that at least ECW in general was getting a lot of exposure and it would mean a lot for the TV, the pay-per-view, and hopefully we would be making more money. But also, I think during that time, Raven was saying, we're going to get on the radar now with WCW as well, which was 100% true.
Yeah, you definitely got more exposure than most on ECW, the Invasion episodes anyway, so that's definitely something to hang your hat on. We're going to talk about Vince McMahon now, and we're also going to talk about the subsequent meetings. I can't think of any better place to put it. So, can you talk to me the first time meeting Vince, or are we going to talk about the commentary of this match first, and then you met Vince afterwards?
Yeah, we met Vince afterwards. So it's actually 2 interactions. There was the commentary and then the pull part with Paulie, Lawler, everybody coming out right towards the end of the show.
Oh, yeah. I thought, are you going to tell the story?
Oh, well, let's go with the commentary first, and then I'll tell the behind the scenes of that, and then meeting Vince afterwards. So chronological order would be Vince's commentary, the pull apart, and then kissing the Pope's ring on the way out. The line, the meeting line.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Royal Variety performance, I guess, for people here. If people
We were curtsying and doing the curtsy and everything for him.
Yeah. So during the match itself, I think Vince McMahon refers to you at least twice as Stevie Ray. And Paul Heyman very politely says, I very much respect your brother as an announcer. He's not the only one. You're not the only one who he messed up his name from the ECW gang as well. Do you know who else it was?
I do not remember.
Don't you remember Mikey Whipwreck?
Well, he's Irish, so he probably thought he would have been Mickey Whipwreck if he went to WWF.
So yeah, he's Mikey Whipwreck in that as well. But yeah, you're Stevie Ray twice, and then Paul Heyman says, as much as I respect you, this is actually Stevie Richards in the ring. And then
he doesn't say, he says Stevie Cole, Big Stevie Cole.
Big Stevie Cole.
Brought to you by the World Order and ECW. They put Paulie on camera for that, remember?
Mm-hmm. And I just watched it. And although I got the quote wrong. And then afterwards, during the Pope meeting at the back. So how does that all play out, essentially?
Well, let's go, once again, chronological order, which in 2026, Stevie Ray still claims somehow, I guess I was like, call me Stevie Ray. I know it's hard. It's very hard to distinguish Stevie Ray by myself. Big jack dude, and then myself at 187 pounds. No ponytail on him, ponytail on me. So, but Vince didn't know that. But I was laughing.
I like how you skipped over the fact that he's black and you're white.
I don't.
As far as the distinctions go,
doesn't matter. It makes it even funnier in a way. But but with that, also, Vince was so hypersensitive about the NWO clothing line, which I was like, what is this? It felt very boomerish and out of touch back then to be like trying to ignore all that when obviously it was a parody. And he could have said, Vince could have said something to be like, well, these guys are better than the other ones, or something to take a little bit of a dig. You know what I mean? But okay. So in chronological order, the match happens. Then the pull apart thing happens at the end of the show. I think finally Paul and Lawler have enough. There's a big pull apart, and I get the Vince. I'm like, I'm going to get the Vince, and Nini's like, don't do it, bro, don't do it. I'm going to get the Vince. I'm going to grab him and hold him and pull him back. And then when I did that, I was kind of like this. There's a picture I was trying to find of me just up there, and it's kind of a 3/4 Diablo type shot. And I just lean into Vince and go, I'm not under contract. And he just look just looks at that was my stuff I needed to get in. So after the show, everything's over. I don't know exactly how long after everything. I guess we wait around for Vince to finally come back, and then there's the meeting. And backstage at the Manhattan Center, it's like the Hammerstein in a way. It's a very, very, I think, narrow hallway. They got the locker rooms that opens up a little bit, and obviously you got the exit pretty much out onto the street, I think, in New York City. So we put on our warm-up stuff. We're a big team. Like I said before, we looked at it positively, but I kind of saw that they're going to look at us like goofs as well. Who are these guys to like all come in and with easy? They were cool tracksuits. I wish I still had one, but Vince was literally somewhere down the hallway, not by the exit, but put towards it in that direction. And we literally did the handshake line with Vince. And I introduced myself to him again. He might have called me Stevie Ray. I'm not sure, but let's just go with that because it's more fun to get the trifecta of Stevie Rays. And that was it. We met. I thanked him for the opportunity. I thanked him for the match. And he said, we had something like we had fun tonight, pal, or whatever. And that was it. Never really looked anybody in the eye, at least in my orbit, the 2 or 3 people, which is actually me, Meanie, and Nova. Why would you look at us in the eye? But it's strange how that meeting and thinking, well, that's the end of that, pal. In my mind, like we're just had a nice little one-off of whatever, an indie appearance on WWE. But to know that like years later, I would spend almost a decade in that company, that Vince would be very complimentary, that Vince would like pretty much speak up in some production meetings according to agents and really want me to do things, maybe, not light the world on fire, but we have a place for Steve. We have some for him here. Then training Shane for Saturday night's main event, and Vince bonus me for that. And it just very up and down with Vince, but never a clue from meeting this guy, this larger than life character, because that's what he was and that's what he continues to be, and shake his hand 5 minutes and never think another thing about it. But here we are, 99 to '08, and it's my entire life. It's pretty crazy.
Did you genuinely have any hope of jumping to the WWE? Did you look at it as an audition, this match?
I think Raven clued me in. Dude, I couldn't look past the actual performance. I had to get through that. I had to get through the nervousness of being in a completely different locker room because it's the first time in a long time outside of indies where this was absolutely uncharted territory. These were personalities, and they just like looking at me and then standing like next to Brian Adams and saying, "Oh my God," and seeing finally in person that like these guys are monsters. I really need to get in really good shape, not only for the pay-per-view, but if I have any hope of going to a company like this, I have to stand out in some way, or I'm just going to be a manager. That's the way I viewed it. But Raven said, "You know what? We're on the radar now. We got to start stepping it up. We're working hard time from now on." And I think he had me before, like I said, preparation for this. But after that, we tried to stick to our times. We tried to do everything we could to be TV ready. And that was all Raven really coaching me on that.
You say, you saw Crush, and I'm sure, Undertaker, Farouk, Goldust, some of these huge dudes. And it's not like you're a small guy, obviously, but, you know, these are huge, huge guys. At any point were you looking at them and thinking, that's kind of the size I'm going to have to be? Like, at any point were you thinking, I'm really going to have to put on size if I am likely to ever get a shot in this company?
Well, I was never really a workout person up until this point. That's what turned me into it. And, seeing that. And now I never said, well, I got to start doing steroids. I got to start doing something. I was still so naive to a lot of that, dude. I just thought people were working out harder than me, which, by the way, back then, I know it's hard to believe, I wasn't as disciplined and I wasn't as motivated to work out. I was just a kid. I wrestled, I went to the gym sometimes, did whatever, kind of went through the motions. This like really just kicked me in the butt and said, this is a career, a profession. You now have a chance to actually make it. Because up to that point, I was like, when the ECW thing's over, or when they're done with me, I'm still gonna probably have to go get a regular job. I was still kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Did and just before we get off of the Vince thing, did he have the intimidation factor even back in '97? Because he was kind of presenting himself on television as, you know, like the grandfatherly almost, you know, looking after everyone, the babyface announcer kind of guy. Or but like backstage, did he have that intimidation factor?
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, obviously. It was a mix between Vince being gracious, Vince being very courteous, but there was a little bit of the Mr. McMahon, like I could feel like the mean streak. But he was just an intense guy. That could be misconstrued. Very intense. Didn't do the brother handshake with the thumb and the index finger and just touching right here. It was a probably maybe the one of the first times outside of Taz, Perry, other people where it was like, whoa, okay, maybe this thing is just kind of like out of sorts now, out of time. But yeah, you could feel, and you obviously he's Vince McMahon, so you don't want to do anything to make him upset. If I knew better, I would be like, I if I knew better, I would try to get to him outside of the Pope handshake line beforehand and went up to him and say, "Hey, is there any feedback on the match or anything? Anything I could do better? Hopefully, I'll get another opportunity." But I think if they saw Paul, I don't think Paul would allow anybody to get one-on-one time with Vince either. There was, dude, I'm telling you, it was very much you felt the territorial battle either mentally or physically, where to dress, what to do, who to talk to, who not to talk to. It was looking back during the time, ignorance was absolutely bliss. Thank God I was ignorant.
Okay, then, before we stop talking about Vince McMahon, this isn't the last time you would speak to Vince and also Bruce Prichard. So around, put it this way, we were spending 15 minutes trying to figure out the exact timeline. We're figuring it's somewhere in 98. That's all we can say at this point. We don't have like an exact month or anything, but assured that the meeting did happen or the meetings happened. And you get in touch, or really it's Vince and Bruce or whoever it is get in touch with you about coming over to the WWF. For starters, was this anything based on the match in the Manhattan Center? Or was it based on something else that they thought you might be a good fit for the company?
Well, they didn't tell me exactly what prompted them to contact me. They contacted me through Rich Baker, who was a friend of mine, worked for WWF in event booking, really great guy. He's the one that told me they wanted to meet with me. I also was speaking to Vince Russo at the time quite a bit. We were both at one point in our lives running video stores, for videos, movies, and video games. So we would talk on the phone as friends even when I was in ECW. Our friendship goes back that far into like probably 95. And he was always a fan of ECW. So that was one person that I wasn't aware at the time was kind of high on anybody ECW related. Rich, I don't know if it came from Russo, if it came from Bruce, Vince, but Rich was the one that we were talking because we talk normally anyway. And he said they want to come up and have a meeting with you about it. And he asked, are you under contract? And I said, no. As a matter of fact, I told Vince back when we did the invasion, I wasn't under contract. So it was set up to be a meeting with Bruce. And Bruce and myself were going to go out to a sushi restaurant, which I never had sushi before. So I was already nervous about that. Never met Bruce, but through Rich said Bruce is fine and ended up having that meeting with Bruce. This is the part that I said I was going to treat you and surprise you with that I never told you before, but I was up staying with Rich at his townhouse condo not far from the building. And just as the meeting was about to happen later on that night, so this is that morning, I drove up the night before from Philly to Connecticut and stayed over with Rich. Well, Paul calls me, and for people that don't know, Paul and Bruce have been best friends for decades. Even at this point, they've been best friends for a long time. Paul calls me and he goes, "You." I was like, "Are you okay?" You're whispering. "Where are you?" I said, "Well, I'm up here in Connecticut. I'm supposed to meet with Bruce Prichard about something, and he wanted to meet with me. I'm at Rich Baker's house." He goes, "The meeting is canceled." I was like, "Well, Bruce didn't call me and tell me the meeting is canceled." "No, he told me it's canceled. Come back home." I was like, "Okay, well, let me call Bruce." "No, that's not necessary. You don't have to call Bruce." I was like, "I'm just want to hear what they have to say." I think of what this is also during the time of after the blank contract and all the other stuff. And this is starting to happen a little bit more. And I think I probably didn't do myself any favors by saying, I just want to hear what he has to say. I don't remember the exact quote, but I said, well, I'm already up here. Let me hear him out. I will let you know exactly what happened, which I'm thinking in the back of my mind, you'll already know because Bruce will tell you what happened. I didn't even know him and Bruce were that tight, but who else would know? I asked Rich, "Did you tell Paul?" He goes, I don't even know Paul." I said, "So it had come from Bruce." It could have came from Vince. Because at this point, I had my suspicions, but I didn't know if, like, he was in on conference calls or Vince was letting him know as a courtesy. Bruce probably let him know, so that was something there, and they didn't trust me. There was a part of me was like, "This is scary. I don't know what I'm walking into. I know enough to know I don't know." And I'm sitting down with like big sharks, the big dogs in the business. I don't know how to conduct myself. I don't know what to ask. I don't know what he's going to say. So the easy part for me, or the easy decision, which I was tempted to do, was, all right, meeting's canceled. Let me go back home. Which, by the way, may have got me heat because I would have no showed the meeting with Bruce Prichard. And Paul would have been like, "I told him to go."
What? I know you don't know the answer, but what's Paul's end game here?
Well, if you think about it in the positive sense, to do whatever he can to keep whatever talent that he can keep on the roster for a very affordable price. And trust me, like I said, Paul is a big reason, along with Raven and Dreamer and everybody else, for why I became the performer I did, even early on at this stage, to get noticed by WWF and probably WCW eventually. Uh, Paul saw value in me. And I also probably saw, oh, this might be the beginning of the end because now I have a two-pronged war to fight. The company that I'm working with that still wants talent, and the guy I hate in Bischoff that also wants my talent. You can't blame him for trying to protect whatever he could. And also, I was a very low-cost talent. So you have somebody you're pushing in like sub-main event right now, but potential maybe to get into the main event permanently for a very small amount of money. Who could blame him
It was a blank contract.
for a blank amount of years?
Yeah. Okay,
Allegedly.
so what was so what was the meeting with Bruce then? What did he say to you?
Well, when I sat with Bruce, I have to say, very intimidating, very, very intimidating. Bruce had an air about him that didn't make me feel at ease. But then again, you're probably football players, professional athletes. You sit down with a GM, you sit down with somebody you're negotiating something with, and we weren't negotiating money or anything like that, just talking. But I can tell you right now, I was not mature enough. I was not aware enough. I was not political enough. I didn't even have the right common courtesy or common table manners at an upscale restaurant. I just, I didn't have any part of me that was ready for that kind of meeting. That's on me. That's not on Bruce. So I'm trying to figure stuff out, maybe even joke with him a little bit because the ECW is very much a relaxed, casual atmosphere. And it didn't feel like I had presented the best version of myself in this meeting either. Did I do anything stupid? No. but you could quite honestly see maybe this kid's not ready for the Shark Tank of WWF. I didn't get a read on Bruce even to this day. I couldn't tell you like how outside of intimidating, maybe a little bit aloof, basically doing exactly what you should do in the business as an experienced veteran and being political. Sit back, read the room, be quiet, and maybe let other people the uncomfortable silence. It was very uncomfortable.
Did you
Sushi was good though.
did you propose any ideas for yourself, or because I don't even know if that's like a no or anything? Do you just let them come up with all the ideas, or is this the kind of place to pitch your own thoughts?
I probably did say something that didn't sound good, or I was so enthusiastic and I was so excited in a way that I was between shut down, not say anything, and then offer too much or what I could do, or trying to force like he already wanted to have a meeting with me, so they must see some value in me. But I'm to be honest with you, I can't remember like anything really that was said. It was probably a suppressed memory because it probably didn't go well. So there, that started my friendship with Bruce Prichard.
So what about the meeting with Vince then?
So, okay. So we were trying to figure it out for accuracy and everything, because this is a very fluid. I use the word fluid a lot in this, so take a drink. So we have that meeting in 97. And for a fact, that is before I went to WCW because I chose WCW over WWF. Looking at this, then everything happened with the next stuff and going to WCW, then back to ECW for just a handful of matches, one televised against Chris Chetty, but my neck was done. So December 22nd, 97, I had the fusion surgery. Then through intubation, they actually damaged one of my vocal cords. I could not talk until March 98 when I had the thyroplasty. Then sometime after that is when I think they were trying to see, okay, can we make a deal happen? Let's have a meeting with Vince. Went up to WWF headquarters, way past my bedtime in present times because it was a nighttime meeting. And I remember sitting there going, once again, I had time to prep. I had time to be like prepared in my mind and say, okay, I'm going to, and Bruce was going to be there too, as far as you know, maybe Russo. I'm going to sit across from Vince and I'm going to conduct myself more professionally. I had all these ideas about the way to present myself in a balanced way of being quiet, utilizing the uncomfortable silence or embracing it and not trying to just talk the talk. But then I sat down with Vince and all that went out the window. And I went from being completely staring and looking at him in stunned silence and then probably umming and ahhing my way through it. I did not have the confidence. I did not have the wherewithal. And I think Bruce was like, man, strike two, kid. You know, I didn't say anything like outwardly dumb or anything like that, but I think I was just, once again, looking around saying, I want this. There's nothing more I wanted in my life. Any kid that grows up, even today, wants to go to WWE, wants to be on the main stage. But you're sitting across from Vince and then you have Bruce and you're just a kid and you're like, I mean, I could have used an agent right about here, but that might have gotten me more heat. But dude, and it's such a strange thing because I thought after that meeting, I was convinced that they want nothing to do with me ever. I mean, I thought when I went to WCW, picked it over, it was a done deal. I was blacklisted. I thought after this, I was blacklisted, but for some reason, I got a tentative kind of pre-offer from Bruce over the phone after that, which then in turn, I remember I was in a gym in Center City, right near 30th and like Chestnut or something. I was with my friend Scott Brooks. We were working out. We were actually talking about this, like, dude, I really got to step up my game. They're offering this to me, even with the neck stuff and everything. And right then and there, I got a call from Bruce saying, we're not moving forward with this. And I was crushed. And I was just like, and I remember Scott saying something like, just get over it or whatever. I was like, dude, you just can't say that. They're internalizing it. But fast forward a year later, when I was ready to like, I was working for a community college in Philadelphia in the IT department. I had a mentor. I was working 3 to 4 days a week on the indies in the tri-state area. It was like a booming time for the indies and making money, multiple streams of income, and wanting to go back to college. And I had a thought. I said, man, my life is looking like I'm just kind of getting past wrestling for the most part. And I'm going to build a life for myself, collecting degrees in college and everything. And the phone rang right then and there. And it was Terry Taylor saying, hey, we want to test your neck out, want to see if everything's good, and we want to see if we can make this work. Then June 99, I joined WWE.
That would be a
and
story
saved Meanie
for...
from saved Meanie from the evil Al Snow. And then months later, we were trying to electrocute Pepper at SummerSlam.
I hate to say that as a story for another day, but it will be a story for another day. The tentative, formative years of you in the WWF with Meanie and Pepper.
They were very tentative. That's a good word for it. My entire career has been very tentative.
Let's go back. Do you remember what the preliminary offer was from the WWF?
You mean as far as money?
Or anything else, yeah, before it was rescinded.
Okay, money was 75. Maybe that's why I went to WCW initially, because it was 85. It was less dates. I was worried about the ring because I was still feeling that bruised tailbone from the invasion thing. But I remember they were talking about Shawn and Hunter at one point during the early stuff, but mostly Hunter, because I know in 98, that's what we were trying to get through to see if it was DX, if it was Shawn and Hunter, if it was somewhere in that orbit, because I was very much nervous, especially after that invasion match and doing the Stevie kick, about what it would be like to deal with Shawn. But mostly they were talking about reprising my role or having the same kind of comedic role or lackey role with Hunter or the group or somewhere around there, or trying to get into the thing that I heard, not word for word, but paraphrasing, was it was either going to be in DX, or what they leaned towards was the guy trying to be a part of it, like my comedic character trying to imitate, trying to do all these things. So they were kind of throwing things at me. And trust me, what I was saying was, great idea. Second idea, even better idea. I was a yes man. I could have worked in the office that day. Everything sounded great to me.
So the character you were proposed to originally, sorry, my wife decided to slam every single door as hard as possible. So the initial character that you were proposed with the DX thing was essentially what you ended up being, but trying to get involved with everybody when you debuted.
Yeah, like the parody or the imitation character. But I think I was trying in that particular meeting, it was going to be preliminary. Obviously, it always changed. Plans change, pal. But that's really what it was going to be. And you're talking about a kid sitting there already from the first meeting feeling illfully unprepared and not ready. Within the second meeting, already knowing the second Vince makes eye contact, am I ready for this yet? I don't know when I would ever be ready. It's all just kind of like being thrown into the deep end, no matter what level you're wrestling, from, a dark match, an indie, the invade, that's what I mean. But this is a brand new all around territory to me. And I'm sitting there, and then they start talking about these particular ideas they might have. And dude, I'm like, I'm not ready. I want this more than anything in my life. It's an incredible honor to say you're going to kind of put me somewhere in the orbit of maybe these guys, and I get to be the character I'm comfortable with, maybe. But then I'm turning around saying, I'm not ready for any of this. But when will I be ready? Like the millions of thoughts running through your mind. If I'm not ready then, when will I be? What will it take? So all I hear from Vince maybe during that is like the Charlie Brown teacher.
Do you think you would have actually been more like Louis Spicolli in WCW and Scott Hall? Almost basically being like the second and trying to integrate, because he was never an official NWO member. Or, I'm sure he would have been at some point maybe in the future, but, he died very, very, shortly into that story. But do you think it was going to be more like that, where you're trying to ingratiate yourself with DX? Because they were also the biggest babyface group, obviously, at the time. If Triple H was still with the group, because once again, we're still not sure of timings, but it sounds about right that it was still in the babyface era with Triple H in, where would you and China have kind of got involved with each other in that sense? Because she was already the bodyguard, and then you'd be bodyguard too.
I don't think I'd be bodyguard. As a matter of fact, I'd probably be just in real life and on TV, I would be a lackey. I would be there to pay my dues to the group, pay my dues to the company. And strangely enough, like the way it worked with Raven too, I might have gotten over more than I even realized. I might have been China's lackey. I might, I might, well, that would be entertaining right there. And then there's a ton of stuff I've done, even after I joined the company, like imitating Elvis and singing to China and trying to win her over and do all that. I mean, I ended with Jones fracture in my foot from that, so I kind of got stopped. But they liked what they saw there, so I have no doubt that once the pressure was on, and I don't think DX would have had a problem with me being the goof in the group or outside of the group. I would have probably had a nice little niche for myself to do that. Of course, I wasn't thinking of any of that. I was thinking how terrifying it was. Um, that's just the way it was. And you know what? I just didn't, it's probably just, once again, I didn't feel like I belonged in that place in that particular moment, but I embraced it over time. And I knew I wasn't quite ready, wasn't the word. The fit didn't never felt like it fit.
Well, you were, as I think we mentioned during the WCW thing, in ECW in '97, you were the big Stevie Cool person where you didn't massively have a character. You'd kind of just been a little bit more yourself. Then with WCW, you're dancing Stevie Richards again. Then you're exactly what you were in '95 again. At any point, and then, you go back to ECW briefly, you're superstar Stevie Richards. And I'm sure on the indies, you were doing just more you. At any point, were you thinking, I've kind of already done this twice. Can we not, like, evolve the character somewhat? Or is it just like, I'm just happy to have a job here, I'll do whatever?
It was probably more, I'm happy to have a job, but at the same time, like I was still weighing the real life goals I had. And I looked like I was going to have a nice career working for Community College of Philadelphia or anything else in IT. I really made a little bit of a name for myself within the corporate people that talked. I started out with PC help services. Remember, even when I joined WWE, that JR told me I had to stop doing that on Wednesdays because it was like 18 bucks an hour back then. It was awesome. Just to load office and do some other little fixes with help desk support. But when I did that, I was actually getting over in a way that I never thought I could outside in the real world. And I was embracing that. But also, once again, it's a kid's dream to go to WWF back then, and I needed to see it through. And my mentor, I remember his name, Jack DeMock. He was the guy that was literally my mentor at Community College Philadelphia. And then I think he went on to work at a college in Virginia. I was like, Jack, what should I do? And he was like, are you going to be asking yourself, what if you don't take this? He goes, even if you're there for one night and it's what you thought it was going to be and all your fears and everything, it was worth at least seeing it through and getting closure. He goes, but you never know. Dude, that's a mentor because when he put it in perspective, if I didn't take that chance, we're not telling the story today. So thank you, Jack.
Just to confirm, the meeting was at Titan Towers, yeah?
Yes, correct. At Vince's office. No T-Rex head at this point, but it had that painting on the wall. Thank.
I was going to ask, because this is around the same time he's probably interviewing Droz and the whole, he's got to puke. Was there any, like, I'm not asking you to, asking if he asked you to vomit on command, but was there any other weird things he maybe have asked you or whatever it is to
No, but I
get some
wanted it.
personality?
I wanted the Vince voice. I deep down, there was the mark of me going, oh, dude, please say what a maneuver or something, please. Just do. But then I would be like, would they consider me to be a mark? Which, guess what? I was, and I still am to some extent, but yeah, he's going to imitate. He's going to imitate. He's going to parody. I don't know what he was so subdued. Maybe he had a long day. I'm sure he had a long day because it was nighttime, like 7 o'clock or something. But he was so subdued and so just not the Vince you see on TV. And maybe that made it even more intimidating. He almost felt more intense being quiet. And I was like, oh. But if he had laughed and patted me on the shoulder and go, oh, here, put some muscle on it, threw me a turkey sandwich or whatever, and chewed his water in front of me, I'd be like, oh, this is awesome.
Did your neck issues come up during this meeting?
They did not. They did not. And quite frankly, I was like shocked. But they did come up in the subsequent, the after call where they said we're not moving forward because of the neck and everything.
Well, you said
Which
Terry
led me to
Taylor
believe that no, Terry Taylor called with
afterwards, yeah.
Bruce Prichard called to say, no, we're not moving forward, your neck, all this stuff. That's what led me to believe it's completely over. Then it came out of nowhere. I know for a fact that once you say, everybody out there, young wrestlers, say this out loud. I'm done with the business. I'm going to move on with my career. I'm happy being at home and I never want to travel again. That phone will ring. They will pull you back in. It's opposite day, like George Costanza.
Let's move on. And I've just realized I think we're only 2 matches in. So we're going to have to get to the rest of this review because we're not doing a part 3. I'll tell you that. Let's go to Sunny versus Marlena arm wrestling match with Honky Tonk Man as the host. Sunny's kind of still a heel, but it's got to the point where she's being cheered everywhere she goes. There's also this weird lost time for her where she's not actually managing anyone. It's probably the last person she ever managed was Savio Vega, randomly for one night, before she ended up managing Legion of Doom in 1998, which is her own story, of course. What do you think of the segment? And we'll sort of like drop into the Tammy Sitch stories, if there are any, from you after that.
Once again, let's continue the theme that this is a very weird show. If I had to put my finger on it, especially with this type of segment, let's not even call it a match, it feels very much like a house show, doesn't it? Like almost to the point where it's an indie show with arm wrestling. You might as well have brought the DJ in or the high school principal to tag up in the main event. Doesn't it have that vibe where they're just kind of, because you got the ECW guys just trying way too hard. Then the other people, which by the way, we weren't on the road. They might have been, like I said, I don't know if this is the end of a tour, if it's the middle, and then they got to go join the international. You know what I mean? They might be like, let's just get through tonight. Let them, these ECW guys kill each other, and we're going to go back on the road after this. So, and this is the time. Is this the time where you're like anywhere from 21 to 28 on and like 2 off?
I don't think it was that extreme, was it? I thought they had like 10 days on and 3 off or something like that.
It's still a lot more than what we had.
Yeah.
But I remember like Boss Man had said, well, I was not in, didn't Dutch say one time he wasn't home for like 40 days?
No, it was over 60. WCW
60,
were
I'm sorry,
trying to,
WCW.
Yeah, WCW were trying to, I think, get people to quit at that point because this was like 1990. But Stan Lane quit the same year. Or sorry,
That's the Bill Watts era, right? The cutbacks.
No, that was beforehand. This was still the Jim Herd era, yeah. So they were running people to death on the road at that point. And I think
Did they have like pizza days like Planet Fitness because of Jim Herd?
That I don't know.
That would be amazing. Here's your pizza. Here's your pay. Instead of a hot dog, here's a pie and a couple Pepsis.
I don't know if you left under a cloud from Pizza Hut, so maybe they wouldn't even provided the pizzas. Maybe
oh my
pretzels
goodness
or something. But no.
Well, they might as well have the pizza party because they have a arm wrestling match on this show.
Dude, with that table. Did you see the table they got out there?
Oh
that was just
God.
some table they dragged out from like the foyer.
That's what I mean. Everything feels like a budget cut on this show, doesn't it? During this time. And they're just trying to throw people out there to fill in time. And you're right, Sonny, and then you got the Marlena stuff. Everything seems to be in total flux right now. Now, it did end up working out and everybody finally finding their niche and their rhythm, but this is very much a transitional time for WWF.
Has there ever been a good arm wrestling segment in wrestling? Because I was trying to think. I think Ken Shamrock and Bulldog have one that actually kind of half looked like an actual arm wrestling match.
Did Braun Strowman do one in the first or
Maybe.
second run? Then he joined arm wrestling for real, but didn't he do something with somebody?
I suspect they do one every few years.
Yeah. And yeah, but this one, yeah, this one's not right up there with arm wrestling. I don't even know what to say except it's right in line. Let's just get through this week. This is the vibe that I have from the show. So yeah, the table. One thing you see the table, you know what you're gonna get. Right? You shouldn't be surprised.
I like that Sonny came out and just totally did the Rick Rude thing. It's like, I want all you fat, out of shape, blah, blah, blah. And she's wearing it like a gown. And then she like does the big reveal. And then everyone goes, wow. And then I was looking at it thinking, how tame is that for an outfit compared to today? Women wrestling less than this now.
Yeah. So, but back then, and then imagine here's where a sunny point can come up. If we're looking at it right now, well, it's not the diva thing, and she's not the most downloaded, and she's not the original diva, which she is when it comes to this stuff. But what would she be lost in the mix in somewhere today, or when it was more prevalent? Because obviously Sable came in and then completely took over the spot.
Yeah, but they don't have women that don't wrestle. They're all wrestlers now. So yeah, I don't
Well,
think she'd
that's
be
a more
hiding at this
interesting.
point.
Is that a more interesting question? Would Sonny have to wrestle today?
Yeah, I think so. They're all I don't think there is really a valet. I mean, they even got Maxine Dupree in there, and she was, woefully underprepared to wrestle. But you're wrestling now. Off you go.
You're right. This is the economy of WWE where I said it before. They value physicality as earning your pay, not the most downloaded this or the centerfold or the,
Aside from Danhausen, that's it.
yeah, wouldn't they be great to do that more often with more characters to get over? It's still green, right? The money's still green. And yeah, they've done him like, I just hope it doesn't get to the point where that dude's wrestling every week. But I think you're right. I think, but let's give her credit. If she was showing something completely different, which basically she was here and really had a ton of charisma, poise, and presence, she could be the female character, not Danhausen, but that has that type of format like a Danhausen.
She was wedged in wherever that they'd fit her in '97 because they didn't give her anyone to manage apart from Savio Vegas like this one night. Like she was doing modeling T-shirts and merchandise. She was doing backstage interviews. They just didn't have, of all people, they didn't have anything for Sonny to do. I understand with all the stories that she was a nightmare to deal with as well. I want to get any personal stories
I was
from
going
you.
to say she's the Slim Jim table of that era, trying to find a place just to put her.
Yeah, but it didn't ring announcing as well. I'm trying to think everything they did aside from what she was best at.
She
Which was managing.
commentated too, right?
Yeah, she did some commentating. I think she just spoke a tiny bit of Spanish as well. So she did some Spanish commentating occasionally. Any personal stories with you and Tammy? Everyone seems to have one. But also, was she appearing in ECW? Maybe not on screen, but was she appearing on ECW in '97 to visit? Because she was still dating Chris Candido, of course, at this time.
Yeah, I think she definitely did visit. I remember meeting her, but maybe I did meet her before the invasion because I remember Meanie and myself, Nova was there, I think, but in the back, but Meanie and myself sat with her during the AOL chat. And I think she even said, well, we have, the BWO here, and we answered a couple of things. So that was the only dealing I had with her there. Now, as time went on, we were around each other with conventions and stuff, but never really anything. I never had it. I mean, she was Tammy. You know what I mean? She had a very high opinion of herself at the conventions and everything, but she had long lines and people wanted to meet her. Even after all the stuff started to happen, she was still making appearances. But I was never really around her enough for her to say. I think even there was a time when we were in WCW, she was talking to Raven maybe a couple times here and there. I don't know.
So nothing particularly personal then. What do you think of her as a performer?
Well, I mean, it speaks for itself. She was the most downloaded diva, maybe the most downloaded person on the internet back then when it was really gaining a little bit of steam. She had a guaranteed deal, right? Wasn't she getting paid really good money?
Yeah, did she have like an office deal instead? Because she was doing a lot in, I guess, WWF HQ at the time.
She was like an ambassador of the whole company with media appearances, stuff, commercials. She did like talk show appearances as well, I think. So she had a great deal of value in the media sense with that. And yeah, they got it. She didn't need to take a bump. As a matter of fact, she'd come make her appearance on TV, like you said. We got a 3-minute spot for you to interview somebody and ring announce, commentate a little bit, bring out a T-shirt. I'm sure if the T-shirt guns were a thing, she'd be shooting the T-shirt gun. They maximized everything, and she earned her money. But she was under a really good guarantee, I think, at the time.
I think she was getting like first class tickets as well.
What happens when that happens, whether it's male or female? What does the locker room look at that and say?
I imagine there was a bit of an issue with that. But I
First
think
class tickets when she didn't even take a bump. The boys and other girls that are on the road. Yeah.
Yeah, I know Dutch has got his own opinions on Tammy over the years as well, but the whole bus trip in Europe and, you know, the whole story with the food, you know what it is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I'm all aware of that. But Dutch and her were BFFs?
No. Oh, no, they got on back in the day, though. Yeah, definitely.
Was she in Smoky Mountain when he was there?
I think there's a bit of a crossover, yeah. And then obviously in WWF in 95, 96 and the whole thing. But yeah, they got on well at the time. And I think Dutch also didn't have any sympathy for her because she was being really annoying and basically trying to ingratiate herself in with the top stars, basically. And that was kind of her downfall to a point.
No, yeah. I mean, in moving way forward, you know, obviously Dutch has no sympathy for regarding the DUIs and all that stuff moving forward and his tragedy. I can't even think if there's a stronger word for that. Nobody should ever have to go through that, you know, and she's definitely, you know, Bill DeMott's daughter. You know, there's a lot of people that have had, you know, tragedies that are completely preventable because of people like Tammy that just choose to do stupid things like that.
We're going to move on. There's not really too much else to say on this show, but Savio Vega and Goldust. Savio's just out there for some reason. This is at the tail end of the arm wrestling thing, and then she grabs Marlena, and then Goldust comes out.
But this is because everybody's overseas. I'm sorry, but this is like a skeleton crew, right? As you said in the first episode. So
yes.
Just throwing things together.
Yes, it's weird. It is a weird, real skeleton crew kind of thing. And then they have their match. There's nothing really to say other than Miguel Perez Jr. is on commentary. That I don't even think they properly introduced. I don't even know. I think this might have been the first time he was ever there or really on a Raw. I don't know, but the fans didn't know who he was and then booed him when he rescued Goldust to even the odds against the Nation of Domination. Then
is he the one against Edge in Edge's debut match?
Yeah, he's the one who gets his neck broken.
Was that before or after this?
Oh, well over a year. This was in 98 when Edge debuted, May, June, something around that time. Next up, Jerry Lawler interviews Ken Shamrock. Stevie, take it away. Because this was funny. But I don't know, even in storyline, what the best Jerry was hoping for here.
Is this stoicism on WWF TV? Is this what we're seeing with Ken Shamrock? It's just, yeah, this is, I don't know.
It was great. It's like Lawler's like, oh, do you remember all those submissions I taught you, Ken? Don't you remember? Ken's like, you're a liar, buddy. I've never met you before. And then that was it. I still like it, though.
Well, were they setting up for kind of like maybe a transitional storyline with Lawler just trying to get Ken over as a babyface? And also you'll get Lawler over because he's claiming that he taught Ken Shamrock everything he knows. But nothing really materialized, right?
No, but you know what? They were filling time. How long was Ken out in the audience? Because they kept cutting to him through several matches. Because normally, don't they just like bring the dude out and then like do the segment and then usher him away? They left him out there for an hour.
Oh, that's a rib. 100% a rib. But you know what would have been the bigger rib, like I mentioned last week? If the BWO was coming through the crowd and they said, just get everybody out of your way. And I inadvertently shoved Ken Shamrock and then I go, oh, crap. I go
doing that pose.
I go to the war zone pose. I go to go over the railing and all of a sudden I was like, what's got my ankle? What's going on? That would have been, dude, at the time, I would have been probably crying afterwards because I would have thought it would have been the worst segment ever, but I would have laughed about it today. If out of the 2,000 people in the crowd, I shove the MMA fighter turned wrestler, and he gets a hold of me, and then Nova and Meanie are just like, well, I guess you're wrestling the match against none of you.
So the next match is Taz versus Mikey Whipwreck. In fact, actually, just before they come out, Paul Heyman gets up and says, "Man, has this show sucked without ECW or what?" And he was kind of right. But anyway, Taz is out there, or sorry, Mickey Whipwreck's out there, as Vince McMahon called him, and then Taz is coming out. It's got that almost, the feed we've got from USA Network, it's got that almost Taz's music there. It's like the closest approximation I might have ever heard. But and then it's kind of like a 2-3 minute match, and it's mostly Jerry Lawler just throwing out zingers toward Taz and Paul Heyman and sniping back and whatnot. Before we get to the Sabu falling off the aisle, what do you think of the match itself and all the one-liners and all the genuine animosity there seems to be between Heyman and Lawler?
Oh yeah, this was definitely shining through, this animosity and everything and the bad feelings. And of course, Lawler's got the microphone. Taz can't do anything but showcase his wrestling. And Lawler is really second house as an ant farm, tall, socks taller than Taz. I mean, he's not putting over the opponent at all in this. But Taz won two different things. Taz did what Taz does. He's on a full run for the showdown with Sabu at the pay-per-view. And, they haven't touched. They just had the lights on, lights off, or lights off, lights on, where Sabu returned, never touched. So really the biggest big fight in ECW history up to this point. Taz is doing everything that Taz does, but of course, like you said with the cane shot, Vince isn't used to seeing like people getting dropped on their heads like this and this kind of, I guess, the suplex machine type stuff. So it's very new to that. So looking at everything, Tad, and once again, I can feel the nervous energy from everybody, including myself, performing on this night and Taz doing what he has to do, but almost trying too hard. Like the little bit with everybody, the poise and the presence from ECW, the comfort zone is gone. We're almost in tryout mode. Do you feel that?
Mm.
But we're not in tryout mode for WWE. We're trying to put on the best impression to sell this pay-per-view and to sell ECW in general.
I thought it was interesting that Mikey, or Mickey, whatever Vince wants to call him, kind of like got ate up so quickly in this. But obviously these are all 3-minute matches, so it can't really go in any other way. But this was kind of interesting to me that Mikey was kind of disposed of really quickly. This was 90% Taz at the very least.
We were in a weird spot booking about who we're going to showcase going into the pay-per-view, and obviously Mikey was not on a trajectory to be featured heavily on the pay-per-view. So of course, with Mikey, or Mickey as it's termed here, you can't really do anything to hurt him because he's already an extreme underdog he's been pushed, he's won titles to this point, but at the same time, he's still basically considered to be a kid who's trying to just fight his way, through all this. So I don't think it hurt Mikey at all. Now, maybe with the casual fans, but then again, with the casual fans, he just looks like a regular local that Taz is wrestling, which doesn't really, I don't think anybody got hurt by what happened, on any of the finishes.
We'll get to Sabu in a second. Did you recognize anybody from Team Taz?
Wasn't Doring there? Bill Wiles was there, I believe. I'm looking at yeah, I know Doring was there. Chetty was there because that's where falling off the R came from Doring. So am I guessing correctly?
No, I don't. I was asking you. I don't know.
Yeah, I even think one of them, I'm looking right here because I'm just kind of scanning when he fell off the R. Actually, that's not Bill Wiles. I forget who that guy was. There's a guy that has a shaved head where it's kind of growing back like a buzz cut. I remember him, but I know Doring and Chetty were on Team Taz throughout all that stuff. So I know for a fact. And also there's somebody behind the R here with a white robe, looking like they're getting ready to wrestle now. Is that Mark Merrow?
He wasn't on the show, I don't think.
Okay, so before we get to falling off the R, look at this. Who's that person there? Is that like the little kid on the 3 Men and the Baby behind the curtain?
Is it Dr. Zahorian? He came back
But
for
you see, no, it's
for one
wrestling
off.
boots and knee pads and a white. Is that Isaac Yankem? No,
No, it's too late for that.
I'm
That's
kidding.
bizarre.
Is that Dr. Stevie? But there's somebody like just who's this guy right here?
Let's get to the. I mean, before we might be able to figure out throughout the footage at least, but let's have a look at Sabu falling off the R. And Stevie, over to you. What went wrong?
Well, the R is in wrong, so he falls off the R for what went wrong. Here's Sabu. Now, he didn't really, I would say Sabu falling off the R is a better dive than, especially in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania versus Jericho. But the R's, dude, what if the R just came out, like literally just went that direction before he even jumped and he just went right there and fell straight down? That just shows how, like, the Raw logo could just tip over really at any time. But I'm looking here to see he falls off the R. I'm trying to see. This is the guy here. I thought that was Wild Bill Wiles for a second, but that's another guy that I do remember. He was a nice guy. I'm trying to see who else. There's Fonzie. Is that Chetty? There's Chetty right there. So, which means Dorian might be right here. So there we go. Sabu, he didn't exactly dive on the Team Taz. So let's see right here. Oh, oh my goodness. That's the part right there, the second part of the what went wrong, right? The belly to belly over the top. Who is that? Please let me know. Because this person here, they're back there the whole time.
Dude, do you think he was there to like have the R not tip over as much as it did? Like he was like the post.
Is he happy it didn't tip over as much?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, wouldn't it be funny? I say funny if the R tipped over entirely and Sabu just slid down the R.
There's a few different ways. Now, by the way, this mysterious figure probably saved the R from going all the way over. Because look, as he pushes,
he's got a hood up as well. Have you seen that? He's got a hood up.
Yeah, whoever it is. Is it Mordecai? A little too early for that. That's why I was asking if it was Mero.
No, he was injured at this point, I think.
But who is this mysterious figure? But I guarantee, here's what would have been even worse. What if Sabu fell off the R and then the R tipped over and landed on the entire ECW crew? Like in the aisleway.
Well, it was in the expendable Team Taz.
They would have chanted ECW if that happened.
RAW.
That guy's kind of laughing.
Let's have a look at part 2 then of kind of this what went wrong with the suplex.
Here's, whoa. So what did Mikey try to Taz here? That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, Taz ducked the suplex, I figure. So if you just play it from here, full.
You notice how Mikey's not wearing the dragon shirt or anything. He's kind of he planed himself up to be as plain as possible for this. By the way, that's a tough one because Taz is literally bridging. His neck could have got caught up in that rope. And this is after his neck injury. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that I think that there was a little bit, Taz is trying to, did he slip on the belly to belly? See how his hands kind of slip up on Mikey?
I don't know. I think it's just because he's 5'6" or so.
There's not enough clearance over the top rope of any of them, right? So he kind of bounced off. This is the one here, the T-bone. It fixed the R. Let's see who's here. Here's that guy. There's Chetty. I believe that might be Doring right there. But yeah, this is just one of those things. As far as what went wrong, it's just a size difference. There's real ropes, because look what they do that. There's no bounce on that. You're kind of stuck. Plus, Taz pops his hips and does his neck bridge through the middle rope. kind of difficult. It could have went much worse. I don't think it was that bad. It looks like Sabu just pulled Mikey off the rope instead of catching him on the dive. But yeah, fall off the R.
How long did people make fun of him for that?
Oh, never then. not, not at all then.
No, I mean Sabu, not Taz.
No,
or...
not even Sabu. I mean the inner circle. I think Sabu laughed. I think Sabu coined the phrase. He came back and went, F, I fell off the R. You know? And that's where Doring and everybody got it fell off the R. I think he was telling Taz I fell off the R, and Taz was just kind of like, yeah, I was watching it the whole time. I was there, you know? So I wish Sabu was still around to kind of laugh about the R. I'm sure he's done plenty of shoot interviews about falling off the R. Dude, he went full like diving, a diving fall off the R. Usually you'll catch yourself and just kind of, he still got the dive in. Got to give him credit.
Let's move on to the rest of Raw. There's not really a ton to say about this because just isn't really. I mean, the rest of it's just pretty much a show. Legion of Doom was the big surprise going against the Headbangers, and then the even bigger surprise was they went 50-50 with the Headbangers on their return to the WWF after like nearly 5 years, which I kind of think was kind of incredible because like I was thinking with the Legion of Doom, with this run 97, 98, and a tiny bit in 99. They just wouldn't give the fans what they wanted. They wanted the Road Warriors of the 80s and early 90s, just crushing opposition. They barely even had any really good matches in the WWF at this point because it just seemed like someone had got in Hawk's ear that he had to sell. And he was terrible at it. Like, you'd punch him once or something, and he'd flop over, like Woody in Toy Story. He'd like, blue, and his arms would go loose. He was the worst at it. But, like, there was way too much 50-50 stuff with, or, the Legion of Doom fighting from underneath, would you believe? They only had a few good matches. PG-13 was amazing. And then there were a couple with Shawn Michaels, one with Austin, one with Shawn and Triple H, I think. And then there's another one with Brett, Bulldog and Owen as well. But there were so few and far between the great matches. And they could still go to an extent. And I don't know why they hamstrung them so badly.
Do you think it's two things, I guess, come up to mind? Like I said, I don't know for a fact. Number one thing is obviously politics. You said Shawn and Hunter were in the production meetings. There was a lot of sharks there. And also what goes hand in hand with that, do you want to test them? Is the office testing them to see if they'll do business? Because you said it, like the Road Warriors running through everybody, no selling, doing all that stuff. But do you book them into a corner and you book the entire company into a corner? What do you do after that? So are they kind of like holding them a bit in that middle of the road mode where they have to do business for other people, the next generation and the current one, and maybe keeping their I don't know, hawk or animal. I'm just saying, are they trying to keep egos in check and keep the push in check so it doesn't spiral out of control?
WWE just seems obsessed with the idea of just not booking people in that mode. Like, I mentioned Obafemi. Let's take him out there for a soliloquy. Why not? With him dressed in a nice shirt. It's Obafemi, man. I mean, get it. He just killed off Brock Lesnar. And then, obviously, Brock had to cleanly beat him back as well, which also is really annoying and makes no sense. But it's like with the Goldberg thing as well. Why do they have to make him a character? Why did they have to get him to wrestle 15, 20-minute matches? WCW gave you the blueprint. The NWA gave you the blueprint of how to make these guys superstars. Just do that. But it just seems that Vince, Triple H, whoever may be in charge, they've just got to do it their way.
Yeah. You look at Magnum TA in the NWA's days, he was just beating people in record time, and it really launched him into the main event. Here's just another thing, and I'm not sure of the timeline. Do you think they weren't pushing them in a way where they can count on them to be so dominant because of Hawk's demons, because of personal issues? Was that a thing when they returned for this show?
I think it was a time when they left in 92, so I can't imagine they thought it had gotten any better.
You understand what I mean, though? They
Absolutely.
don't know.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
testing phase. Will you do good business, and are you going to be able to, whatever we do give you, be able to fulfill your commitment with that?
Yeah, so they don't want to revolve the entire division around them.
Yeah,
But
because
then you've
what
also got
even
the
when yeah, well,
Sharks out there.
resolving the division around, even if one of them go, what did I say about tag teams? The other guy's gonna pay the penance because you're a team. So what are you gonna do with Animal with Hawk gone? It's kind of a moot point.
Go back to Japan
No, I
and
just
be
meant what I
solo or a
mean,
tag team
yeah,
star
with
for 3
both of them,
years.
but what I meant was if he gets in trouble or suspended or something happens and you saw the Animal there, and Animals was a great worker. In a way, Animal just was so impressive with the way he can move with the flying shoulder block, the power slam. He was really underrated with what he could do. Now Hawk was just super intense and actually unintentionally funny with his promo. It's just very, very out there. But Animal, was definitely in a way technically like such a workhorse for that team.
So, it ends up in a double count out, and then they hit the well, that's the thing, it's like, well, you end up in a double count out, but then you hit the Doomsday Device anyway. Well, just hit the damn thing. It's not a big deal for the Headbangers to lose to the returning anyway. We move on from that. We have a Tell Me a Lie video, but it's updated for the crying Shawn Michaels when he lost his smile and gave back the title. Devon Dudley versus Tommy Dreamer with Bueller. Not really anything to say about look how slim Tommy Dreamer is in comparison. Tommy's using, we said this before, Tommy's using mild weapons like a walking cane, and Vince sounds really uncomfortable on commentary with where this is all going. And he goes, oh, I hope this doesn't get out of control. And then Heyman goes, well, I hope it does get out of control because this is what ECW is all about. And then it just ends up being another 3-minute match that ends in a picture-in-picture because Tommy hits a DDT onto Devon with a chair in the ring, but everybody's looking at The Undertaker on the other picture-in-picture who's promoting an upcoming match for whatever that's happening. And in the end, I didn't even write what Undertaker was saying because I was paying attention to neither of them.
Yeah, when you split focus, you get no focus. And that's kind of like the 50-50 booking you talked about with the LOD versus the Headbangers. I don't know what they were trying to squeeze all this stuff in that was kind of all lost in translation, especially like the Goldust promo all over. I mean, during my match, you couldn't even hear him on the first one. Lawler made a point that there was also technical difficulties in the ring, which I can agree with when it comes to me. But man, it was like, even from a WWE production standpoint, this audio video quality was really down. Did you notice that?
It's a bad quality video as well. That's a VHS rip.
No, but I know
Kind
during
thing.
the Goldust thing, because we were watching it back afterwards because we taped it. It didn't come through either.
Oh, they had to, with the Goldust thing, they had to stop it and go back to him.
Yes.
It's an unbelievable, yeah. I don't know. The thing is, did you notice several times where they had the color bars on briefly? Like, it just flicked to the color bars for like a second and came back again.
No, I
So there was
didn't.
technical issues throughout.
Man.
Yeah, did it on the arm wrestling thing with Sonny, did it on the Tommy Devon match. Just to wrap it up, so Tommy gets the win, then Bubba interferes, then Sandman comes and cleans house, and Heyman then goes for Lawler as the ECW guys break it up, but you told the story earlier in the episode. Then the main event is Undertaker versus Farouk, and I'm going to admit to you now, I just ended it there, because I saw them wrestle at King of the Ring 97. That was the main event. That was a terrible main event, that was. It's like one of those things where you have like Steve Austin and Shawn Michaels on the same card, but the main event was Undertaker and Farouk.
I was going to say, if you could have that, if they didn't drop the ball with Farouk in the beginning with the helmet and all this stuff, and they should have learned that lesson when they did the same thing to Karrion Kross. But imagine if you had Ron Simmons from WCW, even though Farouk and then Nation and all that stuff and got himself over. It's just like you said, why do they go so far away from what's the easiest way to go with the most amount of credibility with Ron Simmons, to do that? You call him Farouk if you want, but this is still a guy you don't even give his accolades. And I think that's where it kind of hurt a lot with the Taker match. And maybe it was just, I feel like that match was maybe too soon to give Farouk a little bit more time to become that dominant heel that he was. I don't know. It just, some nights there's been nights like the match Austin and Taker had with all the buildup, the Highway to Hell match, I believe, right? At the Garden, just a backdrop kicked up. Taker does a hair flip, knocks Austin like pretty much out on his feet. It just happened. So we don't know if there was an injury or injuries going into that match in King of the Ring. We don't even know if the guys were feeling 100% or where this Raw kind of fit into the road schedule. You see, everybody could just be exhausted.
Well, that's the show. That's that done. We're going to move on to some news now and a couple of pieces that I want your opinion on. And we're kind of just going to launch into it because Steve's got a massive delivery that's coming at any time now. Is it any time from now?
No, actually 10 a.m. it starts here. So we can go for another 2 hours, but you have an assignment too in your gym.
Yes, I do. But I'm not going to tell you what it is because it just seems like, why don't you do it yourself? We're having to get like professional cleaners in because the mats are like, they need special chemicals. Like this mat.
Get your pipe when
like
you talk like
things.
that.
I wasn't going to say, but that's the truth.
Is the chauffeur bringing them to clean?
The chauffeur's busy.
You are a Bond villain. You are.
I've got a pipe.
Not today, Mr. Bond.
Okay, if it makes you happy, yesterday or the day before, the gardeners were here, and I actually leant out of the window and pointed to them with my pipe and said, "You there, you there." But actually,
what
the
day is
my
it?
uncle.
Street urchin? What day? It is Christmas Day.
In fairness, though, one's my uncle, and the other one I've known for 40 years, or 30 years, I should say. And it was my first ever job, was gardening with them. But they found the funny side anyway. The cleaners, not so much, but there you go. Anyway, right, let's move. As far as the butler goes, geez, I tell you, he's got no sense of humor.
You're like the Jey Uso of YouTube. There's your segue.
At least to get interaction. Let's go to Jey Uso. SmackDown. Did you watch SmackDown?
I did not. I am sorry.
That's fine. Because it doesn't relate to it, really. It's just that Jey Uso won his semi-final match, King of the Ring, against Javon Evans on SmackDown. And I think it's going to be, is it Obafemi and Jey Uso? I think it is anyway, for the Night of Champions for the King of the Ring. Anyway, match was fine, not a problem. And then all of a sudden you get the usual people saying, yeah, but it's such the obvious way to go. You know, Javon Evans has got some momentum behind him. Why not give him something? Because Jey Uso's also, you know, the armchair booking kind of thing. But the thing is that a couple of years ago, Jey Uso, when he won the Rumble match, that was like one of WWE's most disliked videos ever. And you can't see the dislikes anymore, but yeah, you can if you copy the URL and put it into any number of third-party websites, and they'll tell you all the information. But then the video of him winning the King of the Ring semi-finals on SmackDown, at the time where I copied and pasted this, 5,800 fans liked the video and 18,000 disliked it. I don't know if it's fan fatigue. I don't know if it's somebody just buying dislikes, just like making a point that they hate Jey Uso, which is true that some people do that and you can buy fake dislikes. What is it about Jey Uso that he can't get the wider, or at least the IWC fans on board? Because you're a big fan of Jey Uso, but like, do you see where the fans are coming from at the same time here?
I kind of don't. I mean, all I can guess with, and I am there's a bias. I'm a huge fan of Jey Uso. I just feel like Jey has a lot more range when it comes to certain things. And maybe because I was emotionally invested in what Jey was doing and how he broke out during the era, like the Thunderdome era and everything. And he started to really stand out as a singles when Jimmy was gone. And this little thing, like the thing with Eric Andre last week, where everybody is pretty much giving him a handshake, except for Jay's just looking sideways. He has such an intense edge to him and such a roughness about him. And his promos, they do stand out, but maybe the fans, the internet fans, it's long in the tooth because he talks and they eat and all that stuff. But you can't deny how over Jey was and the spot he was in, that people can say, you know, you got to turn Samoan to get pushed in the WWE. That's the big joke right now. And it's been a joke. But Jey really did get over on his own, and Jey did a lot. But then when it came time for the world title, it just seemed it's like, careful what you wish for, right? You get to that point, then it's now what? I've talked about that babyface chase of the championship, but then when you get it, man, you are on such a pitch count to keep yourself over and, more importantly, keep yourself interesting. And is that what's going on? Did the fans want Jey to do all this? Then when he won the Rumble, it's like, well, we wished for it, but now that we got it, ooh, it's kind of flat. I don't know. I think it's always on creative's side that I put the blame more than the talent, because Jey worked his butt off to get into that spot. Creative really just treaded water with him on that and didn't do him doing anything interesting. And you know what? The internet loves Gunther. So that whole thing could have turned the internet completely permanently against Jey. Am I missing any of the chronological stuff with that?
That's more or less it. I don't know if it was something to do with the brother versus brother thing, because that just, I don't know. I mean, do you think fans just don't? Because that's always going to be impossibly difficult when you're a twin, when you've been a tag team wrestler for so long as well, and then you're thrust into the main event spotlight. That's always going to be incredibly tough to get over that being pegged in at a certain level, and then for whatever reason it may be, and we saw on Unreal, which is another series next month. I'm really looking forward to how they're going to explain some of these things coming up. But yeah, like Triple H, they captured the thing where it's saying we're going to strap the rocket onto, all the cliches, and we're going all the way, whatever that means. And then he kind of almost ruined it himself by being out of shape, and he even said, man, I'm out of shape. Because he couldn't even get over the rope, and, he did the top dollar thing at one point at the beginning of last year. But I don't know. I don't know if it's a perception thing. I don't know if it's almost like an X-Pac heat kind of thing, where they think, well, we saw you at this level, but maybe because of your connections behind the scenes, you're getting pushed beyond what we think you should be. These are just spitball ideas. Do you think there's any validity to any of them?
No, I don't believe, but I do think what might be valid with the fans looking at it from the internet and maybe even the casual fans is they might have bloodline fatigue. Like, basically, there's so many different versions of the bloodline. They've been doing all this stuff. And Jey had like maybe 2.5 strikes against him based off of that world title win, the Rumble win, the run after that. Yeah, I would definitely say that, yeah, the X-Pac heat thing I haven't heard for quite a while, but it feels like, how can we get Jey, if he is going to be a heel or heelish, a heel people, then you get to the point, you're a heel people want to watch, then they start cheering you again. Boy, it's very confusing. You don't want change the channel, go away heat. So that's a very thin line Jey's on right now. But man, I think Jey's back in shape. I saw him with the Eric Andre segment. He looked pretty jacked. He looked really good. But maybe that's what it is. The timing, and I know something about being out of shape with the biggest opportunity you've ever been given in your career. And that can stick with you for a very, very long time. But putting him in the finals, now here's a question. Is Jey in the finals for two different reasons? Number one reason, is Jey going to become a heel? Number two reason, is Obafemi just going to squash Jey Uso in the King of the Ring finals? Can you see a 10 to 15 minute match with this?
That's a good question. What do you think? I mean, this has got the Obafemi's going to win, I think, because it's going to be it's they get a championship match at SummerSlam. I can't see it being Jey Uso and going after Sami Zayn if somehow Sami Zayn wins, because that's going to be a triple threat match now. It's going to be Cody and Gunther and Sami Zayn. And that's also what I was going to ask you. Do you think they've just absolutely completely missed the boat on Sami Zayn there? Because I know a lot of people say, well, the time to get the title on him was when him and Roman Reigns in Montreal, whenever that was a couple of years ago. And now, is it just, if he eventually becomes champion now, is it just a consolation prize to him? But what's the match at SummerSlam going to be, essentially? Is it going to be Jey versus Roman?
Well, I would say this. There are two different ways it can go with the Obafemi Jey Uso match with the King of the Ring final. Obafemi just squashes Jey, and maybe there's some kind of fallout with the bloodline once again, that's been played out and that's stale, but they could do it. They've been known to just beat you over the head with it until you're still not happy. It doesn't matter.
Dude, you know the bloodline thing's been going longer than the entire run of like Nitro or something. It's been like 5 years.
Yeah, it's been going on since that Thunderdome era, But here's the other thing. And people might be like, no way. But if they're putting Jey in the finals of the King of the Ring, they must have some kind of belief in Jey to still push him towards the end of something. Do you see, now that the bloodline's back together, that Roman Reigns and the bloodline cost Obafemi the King of the Ring? Jey wins it, and then Obafemi starts a program of Roman Reigns.
I've got more of a theory on this. I think Obafemi loses. I think Brock Lesnar costs him that match, so therefore it's Brock versus Oba at SummerSlam. Jey Uso decides to challenge Roman at SummerSlam, and therefore it's the Usos versus Roman and Jacob Fatu.
Oh, that's an interesting one. Yeah, I forgot about the Brock thing. Here's the point. There's something here that you can do without hurting anybody too much, as long as you have, like you just said, that's the Ultimate Warrior Savage thing with Slaughter when he won the world title. You got Brock. Brock is the one that cost Obafemi. But then again, Obafemi has the undefeated streak. You're stuck in a
He
lot
did.
of...
He did have the undefeated
I'm sorry,
streak.
Did.
That's the point. It's like if he was going to lose, he should have been like screwed out of that match. Now he's lost clean.
There's some damage control needs to be done. There's some reclamation project with Jey. There's some protection. Dude, there's a lot of different elements here. It's not a simple situation. And then, like you said, in the end, all these questions that we're asking, the main question is, how's this lead in the SummerSlam?
One more suggestion I came up with Jey Uso and how some people on the internet aren't fans of him. Do you think it's got anything to do with Rikishi consistently complaining that Jey wasn't getting pushed enough? Because it's become its own joke. That's the only time, because everyone's got a podcast. We all know this in wrestling. But like the only time that anyone has ever paid attention to Rikishi's podcast is when he's complaining that WWE are not doing anything with Jey. Despite the fact he's got two other sons there. It's always Jey.
I was going to say, we don't have a podcast, we have a show. So please
That's
get it
true.
right. It's his dad. I've said it before. His dad's protecting him. His dad's trying to advocate for him. But man, that may be the most interesting question. And based on my experience with this petty company, and then I would think with Rikishi, they wouldn't be that petty. They might pull him aside and say, "Hey man, can you just lighten up on that? Please don't do that." Or Jey might be like, "Dad, stop, please." Or somebody that's there saying, "Okay, you want to keep talking? We're going to make your son an example." We're pushing the other people in your family. See what I mean? You're kind of stuck where people in the family are being pushed, but then there's certain parts of Jey. Dude, Jey's got a lot of potential. I'm a big fan of Jey, but I would tell you right there, I would kill to get buried like Jey's been getting buried by the company over the past few years.
Let's move on, and we've got a few what went wrongs here, a few videos to watch along, and the first one is WWE Evolves Anya Rune. She is struggling. Some people struggle to do moves off the top rope, for whatever reason. She's struggling to stand on the top rope and then the middle rope as well. So really, it's over to you, Stevie. As somebody who wasn't the most keen on doing the dives and the top rope stuff yourself, so you probably got some appreciation for this. What went wrong?
Well, I watched it in comparison to me. She still did a great job. She's still very, very coordinated, very athletic. So once again, just like the Jade Cargill thing, and I'm sure we're going to talk about other things. Don't worry about anything. You're going to be okay. Just look at some of my matches and you'll feel better. There we go, ladies. She's going up to the top. What is she screaming? Oh man, how did that happen?
Did she de-wig herself as well?
Yes. No, hey, it looked like that whatever the extensions or whatever were going to come out.
Yeah, no, it's blue on top and then black underneath, I think.
I don't know how you slip like that. You know, it's scary though. She tried to catch herself, which could have been a mistake. Because what do you think would happen there?
Pull the shoulders out.
Both of them. Yeah. Dislocate your elbow. She really, that's a part that's, your neck could get a pinched nerve or something. But I kind of couldn't. That's a mystery. She did a good job of? What would she do right away? She sold. She sold.
Look, I've got a very, very in the weeds question for you here. As far as going on the top rope, would you rather be on one of the corners of the rope where it's just rope, or would you rather be in the corner where the ropes like double down on each other and wrap around each other, and then you've got like twice as much to stand on?
Well, it should be here on the turnbuckle. It doesn't look like they usually make it pretty thick here and here.
Well, no, that's on her second attempt to stand up. She's on like another corner.
But I'm going to show you this right here. Look at her foot placement. This is what Val taught me about anything on the top rope that you're going to do. This foot here, your feet should be at a 45-degree angle with your heel dug into the corner of the turnbuckle or on the turnbuckle. You see what I mean? She's straight with this foot here, and this one is a good inch or two away from the turnbuckle. What I was taught, usually it would be just if I was going to get crotched or if somebody was going to cut me off and do something, but your feet need to be along the edge of the rope with your heels back towards this. Because then you create kind of a base right there to be with the turnbuckle that you're kind of gripped. So I remember, Val, if you look, most people that go on the top rope who aren't incredibly athletic would put their feet to resemble this right here, like a V shape. And then you would jump off, because also by having your heels either on the turnbuckle or as close as you can, this part here doesn't bounce as much and you get that spring off. On the ropes, you see how they're already kind of just a little bit kind of squished down. So she could have thought she had it, and when she went to jump, both her feet just slipped forward. Guess what? Better this direction than that direction. I've seen people fall backwards and really hit their spine on top of the post. That hurts. So let's move forward and see. She's trying. Now you can see on these, it's thicker. That's what you want. But she still doesn't have, I don't know why she doesn't turn that foot out here and this out here. This is kind of out here, her left foot, but why is she having so much trouble? See, this foot shouldn't be out this far. You see how she doesn't have the leverage to really balance, to stand up and then jump?
She looks like she's going into the void as well. That chroma key thing you've got going on, it's weird.
My chroma key?
Yeah, you've got like a chroma key setting.
Oh, it's on.
So like her, yeah. So her head is turned black partially.
All right, that's what I'm doing when I'm on the Cranes Can. I'll have to shut that off. I think she wanted to disappear right about this. She wanted to be chroma keyed out of the match to do this. This is, dude, what are we looking at here? Like, this is like maybe 90 seconds from beginning to end of this video. Maybe each thing is about 10 to 15 seconds or whatever. It feels like 10 to 15 millennia to have this develop or not develop. Poor girl, man. Does she go for it again? That I have to finish?
I don't think so, no. She then cuts a promo afterwards, but it's not really worth listening to.
But here's what, right here, feet pointed straight ahead and not in the corners of that. If you watch Val do, if Chris can be roll in or not be roll or mute or not mute things in, show like Val going to set up for the money shot for the splash. You don't have to show the whole thing. Just show where his feet are. And, people like Rob don't need to do it. Rob Van Dam and other people, or most lucha people, most people in the cruiserweight division. But you need to have a good base to do this. And she's already, it's not even, this is what I'm pointing out. It's not even symmetrical and even with her feet. So that's why she tends to slip one foot at a time with this. So, but once again, don't feel too bad. Just watch what I do. Watch Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, Chris Jericho versus Stevie Richards with the infamous tope eventual.
Here's my question to you, Stevie, is that surely even more so in Evolve, or these lower level training school promotions, whatever it might be, you are practicing these moves and these matches ad nauseum. So how can you go from somebody who I guess was confident enough to go on the top rope more than once in a match to somebody that doesn't even know the foot placement to do it? Is this like a complete brain fart in front of people and cameras, or
Yeah, I think it's
nerves,
the
or what?
difference between rehearsal where you can just do it at your own pace and try it. There's no pressure. It's what I talked about earlier. If you asked me to rehearse something 100 times, I bet you all 100 times it would stink, but the live one would be good. For some reason, I was able to perform under pressure, but when there's not people there and there's no energy, I'm awful. But in this era, it feels like it's the opposite. And they could do 100 good takes in rehearsal, but all the good takes are expended, and now the bad takes come. It's all overthinking it too, James. Like, this is where you should kind of think about where you put your feet. You're looking right at them, right? When she puts her hands on the top rope, she's looking down, and that's where you put your feet. For some reason, it's, you know what it might be? Paralysis by overanalysis or over rehearsal. But yeah, they seem to, where I was blessed enough to shine under pressure in the bright lights, it feels like everybody else shrinks in modern times. If you know you only have one take to get it right, but you know the fundamentals of how to do it, you're good. But if you rehearse without knowing the fundamentals and foot placement and all that, I don't know. They literally teach them in wrestling school. Like Robbie Brooks, I was teaching foot placement and moving and circling, and I don't know why they lose these fundamentals when the lights come on.
Have you ever had it where, when you're wearing kick pads later on and you have to wrap them around the bottom of the soles of your boots as well? Did that ever create any slipping issues on the ropes?
A little bit, but I had the atomics. So there's a lot of tread on those, and they have great ankle support. Thank you, Punk. Buy one, get one free. We split it back in the day when they had the big sale. But yeah, and that strap sometimes, if you catch it on the rope, it can do that. But Punk never really had much of an issue. Even when he did that knee up there, that one foot would slip a little bit. But no, the tread was very, very good grip on that. But dude, you're asking the wrong person.
We're going to move on then. Well, I'm asking the right person because there was another issue that happened on a house show that involved Sol Ruca. Now, everyone was piling on Sol Ruca once again, but there has been I think that was mostly from the cropped social media version of the video. We've found the original video. This is from Wrestle Logs, courtesy of them. It's in the last 10 seconds where it seems that there's something, it's like a four-way, I guess, or at least it's got Lyra Valkyria, Sol Ruca, and Liv Morgan. And something happens, and everyone immediately blames Sol Ruca at first. And now there seems to be a bit of a changing up of opinions, really, on what actually happened. But over to you, Stevie. I want you to break this down thoroughly as you can. And what went wrong?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say hopefully Liv is not. Is there any update on Liv Morgan? I hope she's not injured too much, and or if she is, hopefully she recovers soon. But is there an update on her medical condition or anything? Because it looked like she was hurting. She rolled out of the ring and literally just fell to the floor.
Only for her, she said that she was good and that she was running to London, which was the next stop on the tour, which is at Raw, in fact, yesterday as we record this. But she didn't wrestle on Raw. That's all we know. But I think she's obviously the favourite to at least be in the finals. I think she's in the finals, is she not? Of the of Night of Champions and the Queen of the Ring.
I'm not sure if you could check on that, but I was gonna say, if she's running to England with a TKO nickel and diamond everybody, I'm sure she might have traveled analog and not taken even the bus to get there with all the cutbacks.
Yeah, so this was in Birmingham a couple of days ago. Our Birmingham, not Birmingham, Alabama. So yeah, that's kind of what it is. So there's just a house show match and play it all the way through because there are different theories of what happened here.
Ooh, that's rough. All right, what do I think happened? It looks like Liv is supposed to move out of the way or take it, and like, was Roxanne Perez supposed to push her out of the way, or
That's Lyra.
Lyra, I'm sorry, Lyra Valkyrie. It would seem that that she was going for Lyra. Lyra gets out of the way, and Liv was supposed to take the crossbody. Is that kind of what you're guessing?
I don't know. I think the theory that I saw from somebody, someone supposedly in the know, was that Liv and Lyra may have thought, or Liv might have thought, there was one more spot with Lyra before Sol Ruca got back involved.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So Liv is assuming that Lyra is going to run off the ropes and hit her with something, and then the spot with Saul is going to happen. Is that kind of what you're guessing?
Yeah, potentially. That's one of many theories out there, I think. So I don't know if that rings true for you.
Yeah, because what I'm seeing here is Lyra goes to run, but then spots Sol Ruca springboarding and stops herself. It almost looks like she is going to turn and run the ropes, but notices out of the corner of her eye that Sol's in midair. And yeah, Liv is waiting for something off of here. Why would she keep her head in that direction? Now that I'm looking at it again. But man, you talk about, I'm surprised she didn't like tear her Achilles, break her ankle, pop her knee out, tear everything in that leg, even break a leg.
There is another bit of fan footage out there that I believe shows that Sol Ruca didn't really fully land on the knee. It was more kind of on the ankle, and it wasn't as rough as a landing as it might seem on this video.
There it is right there. I mean, dude, it's a rough, look at that. That's a rough landing on the ankle. I would say,
I think the knee actually misses the ankle. Do you think?
no, I'm saying her legs came right down on her ankle. Both of Sol Ruca's legs. I'm just saying, like, her toes almost planted here too, James. So what injury comes from that? A torn Achilles tendon. Could have broke her ankle, and you also could have blew her knee out. You could have tore her quad. Her hamstring could be injured. This is a very tough. Now, obviously, this looks so ugly right now. Obviously, she's not injured. But if she ran the rope and caught like mat toe, not turf toe, your toe catches the mat, isn't that when the worst injuries occur on the most minute, nothing things? I'm glad she's okay.
Well, we don't know fully if she's okay. She apparently did have a slight limp at times through the remainder of the match, but she's still penciled in to wrestle Io Sky at the Queen of the Ring finals in the weekend. So, yeah, we don't. I think hopefully it's just an injury scare rather than an injury. I mean, I've seen certain websites that you wouldn't trust with anything. Like, oh, she's going to be out for 4 months. We're just going to have to wait and see, is the answer.
She's lucky because you look at this and it looks like sometimes when people get tackled or sacked or anything in football and that occurs with somebody falling or doing it, and it's usually a major injury. So I'm glad she's okay. But we talk about it all the time. Like we talked before, they're not wrestling enough and they're getting injured. Now they have house shows overseas and there's potential for injury. I don't have an answer for it, James. It's just sometimes the injury bug just hits you at the completely wrong time. There's never a good time, but I don't have an answer for that. I'm glad they're working more and getting more reps, but then weird things like this happen.
Yeah, I think it's just I think it can just be penciled down to one of those things. Sol Ruca's had a kind of really bad run as of recent, as we all know, because she's was struggling to hit her own finish. The booking's not done the best of, biggest of favors throughout either. So she's kind of having a rough time on the main roster, as it were. And this is kind of the latest in a long line of issues that she's been involved in. But realistically speaking, can this just be chalked down to, hey, it's just one of those things?
It's one of those things. It's 0% her fault. 0%. She's going for a spot. Liv was waiting for the live. Now, if Sol thought that we're not on that spot, we're on this spot, the miscommunication, but it's nothing intentional. I thought Liv would have got over if she just did the Joe Nope and just walked away. You know what I mean? And let her just take the bump. But I don't blame her. Obviously, this girl's got to feel terrible. And just do me a favor, Sol Ruca, and it's easier said than done. Don't get any further in your head. Try to get completely out of it, as a matter of fact, and you're going to get through this. You're immensely talented, it's immensely athletic. Just try to become more of a character. Because then if you get injured, maybe when, because you do really high risk stuff, then the Steve Austin stuff where they'll plug you into things and get your character over.
Quote from Sol Ruca: at the end of the day, especially with people on social media, that's such a small percentage of our fan base, and as long as the crowd in person is happy and everyone backstage is happy with what I do, then that's fine with me. That was a few weeks ago she said that. 22 days as I read this. But in the response to this, in this video going viral, Sol has now gone dark on social media, blocked it, deleted all images, that kind of thing, so you can't get in contact with, or you know, post or tag her in anything, or she can't read it.
It's like a protected account now.
Yeah. So obviously enough people have been abusing her online that she's now just done with it, or at least for a short amount of time.
Can I say this? There's a way to still have all that. Just delete the app or don't log into the website. You can still have it. Let the fans like shout into the clouds or do whatever they're going to do. But when you delete and you protect or do something like that in this situation, I've considered deleting all my social media, but I haven't logged on in like well over 2 years. I don't care. But when you do that, you're selling for what they're doing and they see that they're getting to you. You're a babyface, tough spot to be in. But that you see what I'm saying with that? When you put up those kinds of roadblocks and obstacles and you do that, these fans that quite frankly can be toxic sometimes are going to say, "Oh, we're going to turn it up 100 times now because we got to her." They're just waiting for you to get back on social media. Just let them have their own thread to do it.
We're going to move on, and this is our final item of the show. What went wrong again? And this is the Pierroth Jr. quote-unquote heart attack scare from the other day. You're going to have to zoom in on this a little bit, Stevie, just because of cropping reasons. So in I don't even know what the promotion was. I don't think it was one of the bigger ones, but this is from the El Heraldo de Mexico. Wrestler Pierroth Jr. suddenly collapsed in the ring while facing Frizero Jr., and then Pierroth was assisted by paramedics and was taken out on a stretcher at the Arena Neza. I can't really do the pronunciation,
Yep.
I'm sorry, despite the fact I'm Spanish.
Well, don't ask me.
Yeah, so over to you, Stevie. This isn't what went wrong. We know what went wrong, but kind of your just reaction to all this. So you can, if you forward it about 5-6 seconds through and then play it.
All right. Now, I was going to say too, Chris has another frame for this with the phone for portrait stuff, so I can just leave it like this. But even before that, first and foremost, hopefully everything is okay. Hopefully he's recovered or he is recovering. Is there any medical updates on him?
Yes, there is. I will tell you about
Okay.
them after we watch the video. But the worry was that he'd had a heart attack.
Well, chop to the chest doesn't help right as this is about to happen.
It was loud as well. I know we don't have the audio. But for the audio listeners, Pierroth Jr. is
Oh,
about to go for a
man.
dive to the outside and just drops.
I can play whoa. We can play the audio here. That's very sudden. I mean, that's how it happens. You don't say, well, I'm going to have a heart attack in 15 minutes or anything like that. That is scary. That
So if
reminds
there's
me.
any... I'm sorry, I was just going to say, if there's any good news on this, the paramedics were on him in about 20 seconds from this point.
Has CDX being thrown up. There they are. Ooh. Oh, man, that's this. I forget the name, but it was that match with Rey Mysterio Jr. where he went and
Paraguayo Jr.
yeah, that it's the same exact camera angle, as a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, or at least one of them. And it's just like that sudden out of nowhere. And the guy's literally like, you know, countering, throws the drop kick, and then just there. Was he able to was he just unconscious? Because I know he drops, he kind of rises up, and then he just kind of collapses down all the way.
It reminds me more of Silver King. So Silver King was wrestling Juventud Guerrero in London in 2019 or something like that. He's 51 years old. And essentially that's what happened. He just had a heart attack in the ring and died.
Oh my God.
So I do have an update as far as what this is. Thankfully, it was not a heart attack. So the wife of Pierroth Jr. later posted on Facebook the following, which has been translated. We wish to inform the wrestling fan base and the media that Pierroth Jr. experienced physical exhaustion that required a precautionary medical evaluation. After the necessary tests, specialists ruled out any signs of a heart attack or pre-infarction, contrary to some reports circulating on social media. He is currently in a stable condition and following medical advice for a speedy recovery. We appreciate the support, concern and affection shown by the fans, particularly those at Arena Neza, who have been following the situation closely, as well as by Frazero Jr. for the great camaraderie he has demonstrated despite their rivalry. Because you could see in the video as well that he was unlacing his boots very, very quickly afterwards as well. I don't know, to aid blood flow or whatever else.
Yeah.
This is one of those things, just before I'm sorry to launch in, another reason why all referees should really be trained in first aid.
I agree with that. I think everybody should be trained in first aid and CPR, including the wrestlers and anybody around the orbit of the ring, anybody that has anything to do with that. But I do want to say, thank God, like you said, even though they have a rivalry and they're against each other or whatever, that once this happened, he didn't try to do the finish and pin them and do all these different things. It really shows the true nature of the priority of everything, because there are a lot of instances where younger, greener wrestlers, or even some that aren't so green, will still try to get a move in, do the finish, and then go to the medical attention. So I'm glad they just stopped it, did that, and did what was most important. Because even though it wasn't a heart attack, what if they kept continuing to some point or do something with them where some other medical event happens that's much worse than even this?
It's kind of amazing this, I know it sounds weird, but it doesn't happen more often, just like collapsing due to exhaustion, because pro wrestling's really physically intense. And even somebody who doesn't look particularly in shape has to have like a base level of fitness going into it, of course. So it's kind of a really scary thing to see this, and it's more surprising it doesn't happen more often in a sense.
Yeah, when you have adrenaline and everything, like I talked about, the Mick Foley wrestling again at 60, and even with the Flair last match, you can still do all the cardio you want, the rowing, you can diet, you can lose 100 pounds, but nothing prepares you, especially when you're out of it for a while, for the adrenaline rush, which you would be like, well, that's good because you have the energy to get through the match. You also don't want to strain your heart too much and pump blood and get the adrenaline going past a certain age to this point. I have no doubt that it's exhaustion. Maybe he's dehydrated. Maybe he was rushing into the building. He didn't have enough food, enough water. There could be a ton of different things, but that is a potential deadly mix with everything. And then I don't care who you are and how much you've been wrestling and how long and how relaxed you are and know what you're doing. My adrenaline goes up doing this show talking about wrestling. Can you imagine being in the ring? And you're right. I am shocked. I use blessed, fortunate, and charmed business that it doesn't happen more often. Thank God he's going to be okay. Thank God it wasn't a heart attack. But please, let's all, like you said, learn the lesson and take an even more proactive stance within the business on the indie level. Hey, even on the wrestling school level, there's been deaths in wrestling schools. Have everybody trained and prepared to save a life.
We made mention of the chop prior, and it made me think of the Jerry Lawler heart attack live on air, because he said he was wrestling and Dolph Ziggler was landing a load of elbows on his chest and feeling every single one of them very, very much so. I think Jerry Lawler was saying, hey, didn't this used to be fake? And then he's, taking like 10 elbows and shots to the chest, I guess, that he kind of blames, in a sense, for causing an arrhythmic heartbeat and essentially the heart attack. Are chops a little more dangerous than people think? Or at the very least, do they sap your energy a little more than people may realize?
Well, they sap your energy, but from a medical, I'm not a medical expert. I just played a doctor on TV once, but I would have to think that kind of impact at a certain age could literally put you in like AFib or skip a beat or cause an irregular rhythm, or even just for that moment, you could essentially have a heart attack based off being chapped hard enough. Am I being too careful and thinking in the real world too much and not in the wrestling bubble? Isn't it a real thing? Like the heart punch could be a real thing too. If you punch somebody hard enough in the chest.
I mean, the story was that Ox Baker killed 2 people with a heart punch where he didn't even land it. You know,
I tell you a story in the locker room.
It's good for his character.
Somebody told me, and he wanted because he goes, that story did come up in the locker room, and somebody goes, well, you killed a lot of territories with it. That's like a Dutch Mantel line, isn't it?
Oh, Dutch was with him the night of. He actually rode in the car with Ox Baker after the Ray Gunkel died after the heart punch.
It really did happen?
He gave him the heart punch. He didn't die because of it. He just died in the locker room after. He just had a heart attack. So the way Dutch said it, so this is going to be a spoiler because this is going to be on Friday, I think, Ask Dutch Anything. And Dutch said the car ride was very quiet for a long time. And then Ox just burst out, you think they're going to fire me? I'm just like, well, did you touch him? And Ox went, no. I was like, probably not going to fire you then.
Probably.
Like, yeah,
Dutch still got him thinking, probably not, but there's always a chance. Oh, okay. I was joking. I didn't know somebody actually died the night he did a heart punch to them.
Yeah, dude. No, there's 2 people. Ray Gunkel and one of the Torres brothers in the 60s, I think. So that's how he ended up making his law in wrestling, is because he kept being in the ring, killing people who died of heart attacks. But, just so happened to be a coincidence, but there you go. Anyway, we're going to leave it there. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. We're going to be back again next week. It's going to be the fan question episode. So if you want to submit a question to these Ask Dutch, I think I've already screwed up, Ask Stevie Anything shows, whatever they're called, I'm going to make a post on the YouTube channel. It's going to be on YouTube, whatever it is. Just subscribe. You're going to find it. You're going to find it very easily, especially if you're on your phone as well. It'll come up in your subscriber feed. And you just reply to that, and the best questions make it into the next few episodes of the fan questions for future Stevie Richards Show episodes. So, until then, new episodes out every single Thursday, new clips out every single day on the YouTube channel as well, and also the podcast audio feeds as well are available wherever you get your podcasts. But it's over to Stevie to thank everybody, including the Patreon supporters.
Well, thank you very much, James. I want to say about the fan questions, just to remind people, if there is an episode, even if it's soon, we are going to apply that question and answer it during an episode where whatever question you ask fits into that category of content. So don't worry, if we don't get to it now, sometimes it'll be even sooner, or sometimes it'll come along on the upcoming Take a Drink episodes of the fan questions. But thank you so much for watching episode 103 of the Stevie Richards Show, which I almost said the T4 show back in the tech days. Aha, CTE got me, long-term memory. So thank you very much. Please remember, like James said, subscribe and then post in that community post your fan question. We'll try to answer it whenever we can. Also, patreon.com/Stevie Richards. Remember, watch-alongs every Monday there. Show notes every Tuesday morning, and the show before the show every Thursday morning before the actual episode, 2 p.m. Eastern Time here in the States. Once again, can't be said enough. Thank you for watching episode 103, which I think next week is the 2-year anniversary episode, right? June 28th is when we did our very first episode of the Stevie Richards Show.
Okay.
Right?
So this is coming out on the 25th. So
week after. Yeah.
Okay then. So next week is the 2-year anniversary. So I don't know.
I'm getting ready.
You find questions,
Publix.
I guess.
I'm going to go Publix for a very special cake. I'm going to try to do a cold open. But thank you for watching episode 103. Hopefully we'll have many more episodes for you. Remember, it's up to you. We appreciate each and every one of you. See you next week for episode, haha, yeah, I was going to do it, 104, haha, of the Stevie Richards Show. Haha.